Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. I, Naruto, signed Kaguya Otsutsuki at the beginning. Chapter 61. Sarutobi Shinosuke, it's still too late for you to surrender, you have already gone to the momentum. On the peripheral battlefield where the Uchiha clan was stationed, Nara Shikaku looked at a young man in front of him and slowly spoke. And behind Nara Shikahisa are 5,000 or 6,000 ninjas of the Hinata, Nara, Yamanaka and Akamichi families. In front of Nara Shikaku and the others, more than 2,000 people, led by Sarutobi Shinosuke, Mito Menyon, and Kaharu who turned to sleep, looked at each other one by one with a wary expression. Nara Shikaku, and Hinata Hiyashi, don't talk nonsense, if you want to take us, just come by skill. In the original work, the young man who grew up Kinoha Maru was 7 or 8 points, that is, the eldest son of Sarutobi Hinata. Konoha Maru's father, Sarutobi Shinosuke, looked at Nara Shikaku and others with a serious face. Nara Shikaku looked at the more than 2,000 ninjas behind Sarutobi Shinosuke, and saw that most of them were people from several families such as Sarutobi, and knew that it was impossible to persuade these people again. So, in the direction of Sarutobi Shinosuke and the others, he waved his hand, take them down. Quote. Crash. As Nara Shikahisa's voice fell, the Nara and Hyuga and other family ninjas behind him, as well as some civilian ninjas, rushed out in unison. Solve them. Seeing this, Sarutobi Shinosuke didn't say much nonsense, waved his hand, and shouted loudly. Kill, kill, quote, fire escape, how dragon fire art. Tuden, earth dragon spear art. Wind escape, great breakthrough. Rumble, 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 Hyuga clan. Come with me and wipe out the miscellaneous pieces of the Sarutobi clan. Go back to heaven. Quote. Father. Ninjutsu, the art of multiplication. Meat bomb chariot. Quote. Boom. Ah, ah, shadow mimicry. Heart-turning technique. Ninjutsu, the art of the shadow doppelganger. In a split second, the perimeter of the Uchiha clan's station became a battlefield. One by one, ninjutsu, occult arts, shurikens flew over, and an explosion sounded, and ninjas from both camps fell. Fortunately, the Uchiha clan at this time was relocated to the outskirts of Konoha. Everyone present had some scruples and tried not to let the fighting continue into the village. Otherwise, such a large-scale battle, Konoha will be flattened. In Konoha village, the originally lively and prosperous Konoha village has become silent at this time. All the villagers, at this time, did not know when, were placed in the shelter. And Konoha Goyama at this time. Oh, Lalara Shengen. Quote. Bang. A violent explosion sounded, and immediately after, a large blue bowl that seemed to be clasped on the ground rotated and spread around. Ha ha. Jiraiya gasped and looked at the blue chakra ball that was stuck upside down on the ground. At this time, Zilayi looked a little embarrassed. The clothes on his body were broken, and his white hair had burnt marks several times. I didn't expect that this guy in Yechen is already so strong. Even a doppelganger made me waste so much. Is this still the waste with whom I discussed the philosophy of life? Quote. Jiraiya looked in Konoha's direction with some concern. Just a night and morning Mu-Dun doppelganger, it turned out to be so powerful, and what the old man had to deal with was the body of the night and morning. However, now that Yechen's doppelganger has been defeated by him, now he can stop this war. For the contradiction between Yechen and the 3 generations, he is also in a dilemma. On the one hand, he is his own mentor, no matter how bad he is, it is also his teacher, and he cannot see death without saving it. And on the one hand, he is his friend, plus he has a relationship with Tsunade, and he can't see death without saving it. Therefore, whether it is 3 generations, or Yechen, he does not want anything to happen, he wants to stop the war between the two. With my current strength, I'm afraid I can't stop Yechen, it seems that I can only use that. Looking ahead at his oversized jade spiral pill, the night-morning doppelganger who had turned into a log, Jiraiya turned and walked towards Konoha. However, he had just lifted his foot when he suddenly stopped again. Come out. Zilai also looked in one direction with a solemn face. He sensed in that direction a powerful chakra breath. Snap. Bursts of footsteps came. Ji-Lai is also calm, and his whole body is on guard. However, when the man he sensed appeared in front of him, he stunned. Tsunade. Jiraiya subconsciously called out a name. Zilai, you are really not a little bold, you actually took advantage of my absence to join forces with that old man to bully my brother. Under the moonlight, there was a green coat with a big gambling word behind his back, light blonde hair, and a plump figure, and at the first glance, he looked at the woman in an indescribable position and slowly walked over. It was not her face that she recognized, but her foul peak. Because, in this regard, the entire ninja world called the first and no one called the second. Boom. Zilai couldn't help but swallow his saliva. Alas, it has been too long since he saw such a foul scene, and he can't stand it. Zilai, you are still the same, it seems that you don't want this pair of eyes. Tsunade saw Jiraiya's lewd look, raised his fist, and said with a frosty face. Seeing this, Zilai quickly returned to his senses and withdrew his gaze. Tsunade's fist, he has learned it I don't know how many times. There was even a time when he almost died on Tsunade's fist. That's really a painful donkey that will last a lifetime. Tsunade, why did you get back to Konoha? After Jiraiya came back to his senses, he asked with a solemn face. Ha, joke, Konoha is my home, tired of walking outside, can't you go home and rest? Moreover, you old lust can come back, why can't I come back? Tsunade stood straight with one hand on her waist, her clothes almost torn by her murder weapon. Hearing Tsunade's words, Jiraiya smiled bitterly. Tsunade, did you come back to stop me from helping the old man? Quote. HMPH. No and ask. Tsunade snorted coldly, and then, rolling up his sleeves, he squeezed his fists and said, unexpectedly, my younger brother is going to do something big, how can I, who is a sister, stand idly by? Come on, Zilai, let me see where your strength has reached over the years. Tsunade said and rushed towards Jiraiya. The station of the Thousand Hands family, in the underground space 100 meters deep. And Makoto, brother Yechin, when will sister Ju Shinai come to pick me up? The little Naruto, who had a golden hair, pulled the corner of Makoto Uchiha's clothes and looked up and asked. At this time, thousands of people gathered in this space. These people are all members of the Uchiha clan, as well as the remaining Senju clan. Before the war was about to begin, Yechin dug out a huge space under the Senju clan's station, and set the second exit of this space in Uchiha Fugaku's home. And on the eve of the Ape Flying Sun to kill them to fight Uchiha, Uchiha Fugaku arranged for all the Uchiha clansmen to take refuge here through the entrance of the house, except for the 3 elders of Uchiha. Moreover, in order to prevent Ape Flying Sun and others from discovering the abnormality of so many people disappearing, Yechin also deliberately used multiple wooden doppelgangers, and then used transformation techniques to become the appearance of these Uchiha people. As for the use of such a large-scale wooden doppelganger, Yechin will not be able to stand it. This is simply impossible. These wooden doppelgangers do not need to have combat power, and they can't consume much chakra at all. Moreover, Mu Duan's characteristics are split, as well as the ability to refine chakra autonomously. As long as Yechin divides more than a dozen Mu Dun doppelgangers, these Mu Dun doppelgangers can go and change their doppelgangers again, which is very convenient. Little one, how many times have I told you that I want to call my sister? Uchiha Makoto crouched down and rubbed little Naruto's head, not good airway. Okay, and Makoto, little Naruto smiled and nodded, but he didn't repent, and Makoto, brother Yechin, and sister Ju Shinai will come back. Quote. HMPH. Little fart children or little fart children, all 4 years old and so naive. Quote. Before Uchiha Makoto could speak, a childish voice came. When little Naruto heard this voice, he immediately jumped to his feet and said, Smelly fart Sasuke, who do you say is a little brat? You're a few months older than me, and so are you. Quote. In front of little Naruto, a white boy who was about his age, dressed in black, with the Uchiha clan emblem printed on it, and bangs for 2 days. And this little boy is none other than Nizu Uchiha Sasuke. Speaking of which, KBC can also be the cause of fate. Or maybe it's the Asura in their bodies, the chakra of Indra. Since these 2 little fart children have been sensible, they have pinched each other as soon as they met, and they are both unhappy with each other. I'm a few months older, and that's older than you, little brat, little Sasuke pouted, his little face full of disdain, and looked at little Naruto. Ah, stinky fart Sasuke, let me say little fart again, believe it or not, I beat you. Little Naruto rolled up his sleeves, came to Sasuke, and raised his fist in front of Sasuke. See the sandbag-sized fist. Any idea why flowers are so red? Quote. Idiot. Seeing Naruto's arrogant appearance, Sasuke's little head tilted to the side and spit out 2 words. What do you say? Stinky fart Sasuke. Quote. When Naruto heard this, he immediately became angry. Idiot. Sasuke is not used to Naruto and looks at Naruto contemptuously. Find a fight. Bang. Naruto punched Sasuke's eye circle with a small punch, and suddenly, Sasuke's left eye turned into a panda eye. Ah, stinky Naruto, I fought with you. Sasuke was punched, where is he willing to give up? Directly pounced on Naruto, pressing it under him. From beginning to end, Uchiha Makoto, who was holding her arm to watch the play, saw that the 2 little fart children were fighting, and did not go up to pull a fight, but stood aside with great interest and watched the play. Alas, Uchiha Itachi, who was only 10 years old, watched Audito and Naruto roll on the ground and fight together, and he didn't say anything more, covered his face and sighed. And the surrounding Uchiha people, as well as a small number of Senju people, not only did not pull a fight, but one by one. Oh, Sasuke little young master can't do it, he hit little Naruto again. Haha, little Naruto, this black tiger has a good heart, hey, can't monkey steal peaches? It's not good to steal it. Alas, why was Naruto suppressed by little Sasuke again? This can't work. Quote. Not bad, worthy of Sasuke little young master, the basic skills are solid. Uchiha listened to the cacophony around him, and became even more helpless. And the reason why this is so is because as long as these 2 little fart children touch each other, it will definitely not take more than 3 minutes and roll together again. At first, these 2 little fart children fought, and someone came to pull a fight. But this is a lot of fights. They're all used to it. On the contrary, as soon as these 2 little fart children fight, a group of people will immediately gather around. Moreover, everyone is a ninja, as long as they can't die. If a medical ninjutsu continues, the wound will recover immediately, and everyone will not worry too much. Sister Makoto, how are they doing with my father? It's going to be okay, right? Quote. Looking at Sasuke and Naruto, after not dividing the winner or loser in a short period of time, Uchiha Itachi came to Uchiha Makoto, saluted slightly, and asked with a serious face. Don't worry, there will be no trouble, Yechin's strength, you don't know. Uchiha Makoto looked at Uchiha Itachi, who was about 10 years old, but did not dare to treat him as an ordinary child. This little guy's mind is too mature. If it weren't for these Chinese New Year's Eve Chen with the words and deeds around him, he would have been fooled away by the ape flying sun. I hope so. Uchiha nodded. Boom, boom. And at this moment, the entire shelter shook suddenly. Did the aftermath of the battle actually spread so deep underground? It's terrible. Quote. Uchiha barely stood up, his face full of shock. After all, this is a depth of 100 meters underground. So deep underground, it was actually affected by the aftermath of the battle. You can imagine how fierce the battle above was. Dirt rebirth. Inside the Uchiha clan's station. Yechin looked at the seal of the ape flying sun, and then recalled the seal of the rebirth of the filthy soil described on the internet in his previous life. He was immediately taken aback. Dirt reborn. This is the forbidden art of the entire ninja world against one person during the 4 battles. Moreover, if it were not for this technique, whether Uchiha could be resurrected or not is a matter of 2 questions. He really didn't expect that ape flying sun / would also learn this technique in order to deal with him. 1. Bang. A smile appeared on the old face of the ape flying sun, and 2 words came out of his mouth, and then a coffin rose from the ground. 2. 3. And HMPH. Mew done. Tree bound eternal burial. Seeing that the ape flying sun chop instantly summoned 3 coffins, and planned to continue to summon, where is he Ricken? Lang snorted and made a direct seal. Swish. And the ape flying sun who was using filthy soil reincarnation suddenly appeared under his feet, directly wrapping his whole person. In a moment, the vine on the ape flying sun chopped his body quickly turned into a big tree, and finally, only one head was exposed, and the rest of his body was all integrated into the tree. Bang. Suddenly, the ape bound by the big tree suddenly exploded and turned into a white mist. Suddenly, the one that restrained the ape flying sun chop, only one head was left exposed on the big tree outside, leaving only a hole, but the ape flying sun chop disappeared. Yechin, are you scared? Ape flying sun chop is never far away. Walked to the 3 coffins and looked at Yechin and Ju Shinai. He was not surprised that Yechin knew about the rebirth of the soil. After all, this filthy soil rebirth was still developed by 1,000 hands. Yechin, as the patriarch of the 1,000 Hands clan at this time, although many of the ninjutsu and forbidden arts of the 1,000 Hands clan have been plundered by him over the years. But some ninjutsu records and detailed information should still be available in the Senjutsu clan. Scared, when Yi Chen heard this, he was slightly stunned, and then smiled. Dirt rebirth is indeed a ninjutsu that can truly be called forbidden art. After all, in mortal bodies, bring the dead back from the underworld to fight for themselves. This technique is indeed amazing. But to say that the knight is afraid, this is a bit of a reincarnation in dirt can indeed allow the undead to fight for you, but if the sacrifice is too rubbish, then how much strength can the undead you summon retain? Yi Chen looked at the ape flying sun with disdain and said, this guy, in order to be able to deal with him, really even completely tore off the mask of hypocrisy in the past. Yechin is not afraid of rebirth in dirty soil, but Ju Shinai on the side is a little weak-hearted. She looked at the coffins summoned by the ape flying sun, and then heard Yechin say that inside those coffins, there seemed to be dead people. Moreover, these people have been summoned back from the underworld. Isn't it just a ghost? Ju Shinai stared at the 3 coffins, swallowed her saliva. Miss Ju Shinai, who was not afraid of the sky, moved a few steps to Yi Chen's side at this time, and was almost attached to Yi Chen's body. Yi Chen, who was originally still full of disdain, looked at Ju Shinai, who was almost attached to him, and was speechless for a while. Look, what to see? Woman, isn't it normal for girls to be afraid of ghosts? Ju Shinai felt Yi Chen's speechless gaze, her pretty face blushed, and then, staring at Yi Chen and said, yes, what you said makes sense. It turns out that this is the case, or will you help the people of the Uchiha clan and deal with the people of the ape flying sun? That's it to me, Yechin asked. And now, except for the night morning, there is no fight here. The entire Uchiha station can be said to be completely caught in the flames of war. Hundreds of elite ninjas of the Uchiha clan, along with the same number of ninjas from the Dark and Root clans, are fighting within the Uchiha clan. One by one, the detonation charm continued to explode, one building after another was blown up, and one building after another collapsed. And to say that the most destructive power is the battle between Danzo and Uchiha Fugaku. This guy will use the Sharingan as a resurrection coin. Uchiha Fugaku can only fight a war of attrition with him. Therefore, Uchiha Fugaku's Susanoo swung out one sword after another. Because Susanoo was so large, the aftermath directly reduced an area to ruins. Yechin saw that Ju Shinai was really a little afraid of these things, so it would be good to let her go over and help solve the battle over there. It can also reduce the internal friction caused by this war to a minimum. At least not so many people will die again. No need, I'm still here to help you. Now I still know which strong man that old forced Deng to summon. Hearing that Yechin asked her to fight elsewhere, Ju Shinai shook her head. Although she was a little frustrated with those things, she didn't want to have an accident at night. Okay, Yechin nodded and looked at the ape flying sun again. And the conversation with Ju Shinai just night seemed long, but the reality was only a moment's effort. When Yechin looked at the ape flying sun chop again, the lid of the first coffin he summoned had already fallen. Immediately afterwards, under the gaze of Yechin and Ju Shinai, a tall man wearing fiery red armor walked out of the coffin. Night. In the morning of the night, he is. When Ju Shinai saw the man coming out of the coffin, his eyes immediately widened, and he pointed at the man and stammered and couldn't speak. Yes, it's the original Hokage. Between the 1,000-hand pillars, Yi Chen's face also became solemn at this time. Because, in this 1,000-handed pillar summoned by the rebirth of the soil, he sensed a huge chakra aura. To know, the strong people summoned by the rebirth of the dirt can retain a little of their strength before death, all depending on the strength of the sacrifice. And now this summoned 1,000-handed pillar, although it is a dirt reincarnation, has infinite chakra. The amount of chakra is fixed. At this time, in the morning of the night, from the body of the 1,000-hand pillar, he sensed the chakra amount that was more powerful than the 9 tails between the 1,000-hand pillars. Nima, who did this ape use to make a sacrifice? However, without waiting for Yechin to think more, the coffin lid of the second coffin also fell, and then a man with snow-white hair and grey pupils reborn in the dirt showed a dark red, and also wore the silver armor of the Warring States period, slowly walked out of the coffin. Really, the second generation of Hokage, Senju Kuma. Quote, Yi Chen also sensed the strength of the 1,000 hands, and immediately took a breath of cold air. According to Yi Chen's estimate, the strength between the 1,000-hand pillars and the 1,000-hand pillar that was summoned was definitely more than 70% of what he had before his death. Nima, this is a bit of a hurry. A 1,000-hand pillar with more than 80% of the strength before his death, 1,000 hands between the pillars, that is absolutely terrifying. Bang! The lid of the last coffin also fell, and immediately, a pale hand pressed on the edge of the coffin. Between the 1,000-hand pillars, the 1,000 hands pillar was summoned. I had expected this. But who will be in this third coffin? Watching the coffin lid of the third coffin fall, Yi Chen's eyes looked inside the coffin. Snap! A pale hand rested on the edge of the coffin, and then a figure slowly walked out of the coffin. I'll go, how is this possible? Yechin saw the man who walked out, and suddenly exclaimed. Wind escape, vacuum ripple. Danzo dodged Uchiha Fugaku again. Susanoo's sword, quickly sealed in midair, and then, facing the huge half-body purple giant, continuously released air bombs. Boom! One by one, transparent air bombs slammed on Susanoo, and suddenly emitted a muffled sound. However, the defense power of Susanoo's 410 is unquestionable, and these air bombs can be heard when they fall on Susanoo's body. Moreover, Uchiha Fugaku's Susanoo also has a shield as a defense. Tuan Zhang's attack could not help him at all. Tuan Hyde landed on the ground and glanced at the arms that were only left, and the 2 Sharingan eyes were still open. It is worthy of Uchiha's ultimate pupil technique, whether it is attack power or defense power, it is unmatched. After Tuan Zhang sighed, he smeared some blood from the wound on his body, and then pressed towards the ground. Come out, Dream Taper. Bang! Roar! A huge stream of smoke rose up, and immediately after, a roar of a giant beast came out, directly blowing away the white smoke, revealing a huge beast with a body like a lion and a nose like an elephant. This is the psychic beast of Shimura Danzo, the dream taper that can devour dreams. The moment Yumi Taper appeared, his long nose raised, and he opened his huge mouth and aimed at Susanoo of Uchiha Fugaku. Woo! A powerful suction force was stimulated from the mouth of the dream taper. Immediately afterwards, waves of chi, land, and house ruins were all sucked into its mouth, and its stomach seemed to have unlimited space. Is this a psychic beast from Tuan Zhang? Susanoo was in the middle. Uchiha Fugaku controlled the powerful suction, pulled Susanoo, the kaleidoscope pattern of the left eye, suddenly condensed, and then a black flame appeared in front of him. And the moment this black flame appeared, Uchiha Fugaku's right eye kaleidoscope writing wheel eye. At this point, it spun up. Call. The black flame that was originally the size of a basketball suddenly turned into a sea of fire and was sucked by the dream taper. It is Uchiha Fugaku's right eye kaleidoscope pupil technique, which can increase the power of ninjutsu and pupil art. Roar. Bang. The powerful suction of the dream taper directly sucked this black sea of fire over, and suddenly, the dream taper was completely covered by black flames, and only had time to emit a mournful cry, and suddenly turned into a cloud of white smoke and returned to the psychic world. At this moment, Danzo's figure appeared behind Uchiha Fugaku's Susanoo. I saw that he held a kunai and stabbed towards the backbone where Susanoo was pulled by the powerful suction of the dream taper and pulled several cracks. And above his bitterness, covered with a layer of white wind attribute chakra, this layer of sharp wind attribute chakra. Covering the kunai, it seemed to turn into a long sword, and stabbed at the spine of Susanoo. Poof! A shocking scene appeared. The bitterness of Tuan Zhang. It actually pierced Susanoo. Nani? Uchiha Fugaku turned around and saw the scene where Danzo used Kumu to pierce Susanoo. Suddenly, Danzo refreshed Uchiha Fugaku's cognition. Nima, can you pierce Susa without thorns this year? Crash. Without waiting for Uchiha Fugaku to react, Danzo injected more wind attribute chakra onto Kuwu. Suddenly, the blade formed by the white wind attribute chakra stretched out violently, directly stabbing the entire Susanoo into the heart. However, and that's not the end of it. I saw that after piercing Susanoo with the wind attribute chakra, he swiped upward. Father, pierce Susanoo's wind attribute longsword and go upwards. It actually directly cut Susanoo in half. Distance. Uchiha Shuizu and Uchiha Obito stood on the trunk of a large tree, and when they saw this shocking scene, their eyes widened a little. What do they see? Kuwu Susa not only succeeded. I also cut Susanoo in half with Kumu, I'll go. Awesome, my brother. As the current Kuwu refined to this point, the corners of Uchiha's mouth twitched slightly, as if he was joking, and he seemed to laugh at himself. Uchiha, who wore a mask, brought the soil back to his senses, and immediately, said lightly, "It's just a coincidence, this group hides some strength, and the nature change of the wind attribute chakra has been cultivated to a very deep level. Although his strength is declining because of his age, he is still at his peak, and the psychic beast caused Susa to be damaged, which allowed him to succeed. However, it is just that Susanoo can barely break through this stage. Moreover, what if he breaks through Susanoo's defenses? As long as the caster is okay, it is still useless." Quote. When Uchiha heard this, he nodded in agreement, but his eyes looked in the direction of Yechin. When he saw that the ape flying sun actually used the rebirth of filthy soil to summon 3 coffins, he frowned. He didn't know the rebirth of dirt, and some didn't understand what the hell the ape was doing. However, when he saw the man walking from a coffin, he was stunned. The original Hokage. Hearing Uchiha's words to stop the water, Uchiha Obito also looked at the battlefield where Yechin and the ape flew to the sun. And at this time, it happened to be the scene of the second generation Hokage, and the 1,000 hands walked out of the coffin. Dirt rebirth. Uchiha Obito, who has received all the inheritance of Uchiha Spot, and has contact with the Great Snake Pill, although he knows that the soil is reborn. Dirt rebirth. Is this also a technique? Uchiha asked as he looked at Uchiha Obito. Uchiha nodded with soil, and then told Uchiha the information about the rebirth of the soil. It's incredible that it can summon the undead back from the underworld, but it is also very evil, and it actually plays with the souls of the dead. After Uchiha stopped the water and sighed, his dissatisfaction with the ape-flying sun chop deepened a little. He looked at the location of the ape-flying sun again. Oh no, to be precise, he wanted to see which dead strong man would be in the third coffin. However, when Uchiha saw the person who came out of the third coffin, his eyes widened, and his face was full of disbelief. How is this possible? How could it be him? Impossible, this is absolutely impossible, this must be an illusion. Quote. Oh my god, how is this possible? Quote. Ju Shinai's eyes widened at this time, unable to believe what he saw in front of him. And the night morning on the side was also no better, and the expression was like seeing a ghost. The reason why Yechin and Ju Shinai are like this. That's because of the appearance of this third person who was reborn from the ape-flying sun. Sasuke. Ju Shinai looked at the young man who came out of the third coffin stunned. I saw that this young man had very non-mainstream bangs, and his face was a little cold and handsome, and he looked almost exactly like Sasuke. No, he's not Sasuke. Yechin shook his head. This young man was indeed very similar to Sasuke when he grew up, but he was still sure that this was definitely not Sasuke, let alone some Sasuke who had returned from time and space. That's right, it is Sasuke who returned from time and space like in the legend of Boba Burn. Not to mention that now that this world has him joined, can Sasuke and Hiroshi travel back in the future? Even if he crosses back, it should be Sasuke with the Eye of Reincarnation. But now this young man who looks almost exactly like Sasuke was summoned by the ape-flying sun to the soil rebirth. That alone proves that the young man was a dead man. So, he is the only one who looks so similar to Sasuke and has kaleidoscopic chakra eyes. Yechin, do you know who that guy is? Ju Shinai turned back and looked at Yechin. Probably judged out. Yechin nodded. So who is he? With kaleidoscopic chakra eyes and looks so similar to Sasuke, shouldn't it be the ancestor of the Sasuke family? Ju Shinai tilted his head, looked at the young man, and then looked at Yechin. Maybe it's Sasuke's ancestor. When Yechin heard this, he smiled slightly and was noncommittal. If this young man is really him, then maybe Sasuke is still a descendant of people. After all, the world is all about bloodline. The three fathers and sons of the Uchiha Fugaku family can each open the kaleidoscope chakra eye, and if there is no blood relationship, he really does not believe it. However, in the original work, there is no mention that there is a descendant, which is just a guess of Yechin. And who is he? Ju Shinai saw that Yechin was still dumb with her, and she couldn't help but be curious and asked again. Yechin was about to tell Ju Shinai about his speculation, but before Yechin finished speaking, the second-generation Hokage who was summoned over there, Thousand Hands, was the first to speak. Uchiha Senna. Seeing the second-generation Hokage who had just regained consciousness, Senju turned his head to glance at the young man who looked very similar to Sasuke, took out a handful of kunai, and shouted at the young man full of guard. 1,000 hands. The young man, hearing someone calling him, also turned his head. Immediately, after seeing that it was 1,000 hands, all of a sudden, the kaleidoscope riding wheel eyes were scarlet a little. Good, good, I didn't expect to meet you again, and today I will return the old hatred together. Quote. This young man also took out a knife from behind his back, and looked at the 1,000 hands with a fierce glare, and the two of them had a big fight at any time. The second-generation adult is called that young Uchiha Senna. Who is this Uchiha Senna? Ju Shinai looked at Yechin a little confused and asked. Is it really him? Yechin narrowed his eyes slightly, and then, slowly spoke. Uchiha Senna, Uchiha Madara's younger brother, is also in existence who was once on a par with Lord Kuruma. Moreover, the reason why Uchiha Madara can have the power to rival the original generation is also a credit for Uchiha Senna. Quote. Oh, how to say. Ju Shina listened to the love and hatred between Uchiha and Senjuju after the night and the morning. For these two legendary ninjas, Ju Shinai is also very curious. This starts with the disadvantages of kaleidoscope chakra. I also told you that if you overuse the kaleidoscope chakra eye, you will lose your pupils, your vision will decrease, and you will even become blind. And if you want to contact this side effect of the kaleidoscope riding wheel eye, you must open the eternal kaleidoscope riding wheel eye. However, if you want to open the eternal kaleidoscope chakra eyes, you must transplant a pair of kaleidoscopic chakra eyes with blood connections. And Uchiha Spot transplanted Uchiha Senna's kaleidoscope, only to awaken the eternal kaleidoscope riding wheel eye. Quote. When Ju Shinai heard this, he immediately took a breath of cold air, and then asked incredulously, so, in order to have the strength to compete with the first adult, Uchiha killed his younger brother and took away his brother's kaleidoscope chakra eye. Quote. When Yechin heard this, he shook his head, and immediately, the corners of his mouth rose, and he looked at Senjuma and Uchiha Senna, who were confronting. Back then, in order to be able to deal with it, Uchiha Senna, who had kaleidoscopic chakra eyes, studied forbidden techniques day and night. And many of the forbidden techniques on the Book of Seals are actually prepared to deal with Uchiha Senna. In the end, the second-generation adult developed the space ninjutsu, the art of flying thunder god, and surprisingly, directly killed Uchiha Senna. Before dying, Uchiha Senna gave his eyes to Uchiha Madara who was about to go blind, and only by chance did he open the eternal kaleidoscope Sharingan. Quote. When Ju Shina heard this, he also looked at Uchiha Senna and Senju, who were confronting. At this time, he also regained consciousness, and as soon as he opened his eyes, he saw the original Hokage of the confrontation scene, and after being confused for a few seconds, he stood directly between the two. Sukuma, Izuna, why are you fighting again? After standing between the two of them and speaking, he was stunned for a moment, and then, scratching his head, said a little dazed, do I remember that I am not dead? Well, Izumi is long gone, then. Are you dead too? Quote. Nonsense. Chinsho rolled his eyes, a little speechless to this unresponsive eldest brother. We are indeed all dead, and now we have been summoned from the underworld. Quote. Nani, so to speak, Mata Spicy also died. Where is he? Senju Kuma listened to Senjuma's words, did not pay attention to the point at all, but looked left and right and did not find Uchiha Senna's figure. He looked at Uchiha Senna who looked at him warily. Senna, where is your eldest brother? Quote. Seeing this, Chinsho covered his face, and said in his heart, sure enough, the eldest brother and Ban are true love, and Mito's sister-in-law is superfluous. Uchiha Senna heard Senjukuma ask him about his eldest brother Uchiha Madara and he didn't bother to pay attention to it at all, but looked left and right at the surrounding situation. Looking at the ninja wearing the clothes of the Uchiha family not far away, fighting with a group of strange ninjas. He frowned. Could it be that the Senju clan has come to sneak attack the family again? Quote. When Uchiha Sena was killed by Senjuma, it was still during the Sengoku period, when Konoha had not yet been established. Therefore, his thinking is still stuck in the Warring States period. And the reason why it is said that the Senju clan came to sneak attack again, it is because he and Uchiha originally had several brothers. However, because of the sneak attack of the Senju clan, only he and his eldest brother Uchiha were left. Although he didn't know, he was clearly dead. Why is it resurrected now? But family is important. Seeing the surrounding scene, he wanted to rush over to help the people of the Uchiha clan and deal with those members of the Dark and Root divisions. However, in the next second, he suddenly turned his head and looked in one direction. That's where Uchiha Fugaku fought with Danzo. Susanoo, could it be a big brother? No, it's not the chakra breath of the big brother, it's other clansmen who have turned on the kaleidoscope of chakra eyes. Quote. Uchiha Sena looked at the purple Susanoo opened by Uchiha Fugaku, first stayed for a moment, and then, on his cold face, a smile appeared, and looked at the thousand hands. Thousand hands, now my Uchiha family has another pair of kaleidoscopic chakra eyes, plus my eldest brother and mine, there are 3 pairs of kaleidoscopes, I see how you die this time. Quote. Hearing Uchiha Sena's words, the whole person was stunned for a moment, and then, rolled his eyes, and secretly cursed in his heart, idiot, I'm all dead now, how else can I die? Immediately afterwards, his gaze also fell on Uchiha Fugaku's side. When he saw the tall purple giant, Senju frowned. Uchiha. When did someone turn on the kaleidoscope again? And Senju looked at the Uchiha clan who were shrouded in fire around him, and his brows furrowed even deeper. Did Uchiha rebel? Still, how wise is 1,000 hands? After seeing everything around him, he immediately guessed that this was Konoha's attack on Uchiha. Senjuma, you are arrogant now, it doesn't matter, when my eldest brother comes back, I will definitely take the clan and step on your 1,000 hands clan. Uchiha Sena is in a very good mood right now. Because, their Uchiha family has another pair of kaleidoscopic chakra eyes. With 3 pairs of kaleidoscopic chakra eyes, how can the 1,000 hands clan win? Oh no, this is not the underworld, this is Konoha. So, we were summoned back from the underworld. Quote. This technique, is it rebirth from dirt? Quote. At this moment, the reaction arc between the 1,000 hand pillars finally pulled back. He slapped his palm, looked at the 1,000 hands and said seriously, Qian Ma, look, I told you not to play with the dead, now it's okay, you are played with by your own technique. Quote. 1,000 hands flew over again, too lazy to pay attention to this unreliable big brother, it took so long to react, and the god of the ninja world, Ba. His gaze looked at the ape flying sun chop, who had always been a transparent man, It's a little monkey, right? Quote. Yes, teacher. Ape flying sun chopper saw the familiar and unfamiliar face of the Senju chop, and his expression was a little complicated for a while. Wow, are you a little monkey? No, why are you aging so fast? I felt like I slept, and when I woke up, you became an old monkey. Alas, I told you, don't indulge in women, you see, it's all premature aging. Quote. Hearing the 1,000 hands pillar say, the little old man on the side turned out to be an ape flying sun, and suddenly shouted in surprise. Ah, Sarutobi felt offended. Chinsho also ignored the eldest brother who reacted slowly, and he looked at the ape flying sun seriously. Little monkey, tell me, what is going on? Did Uchiha's rebellion cause you to summon us to suppress Uchiha's rebellion? This, facing the gaze of the 1,000 hands, ape flying sun chopper didn't know how to answer. Although so many years have passed, Chinsho has left a deep impression and majesty in his heart. Second generation adult, let me talk about it. At this time, Yechin came over and looked at several people up close and said. You are, hearing Yi Chen's words, Senju Kuruma, Senju Pillar, and Uchiha Sena, who gradually understood the situation, all looked at Yi Chen. I am now the patriarch of the 1,000 Hands clan, and the last male member of the bloodline of the 1,000 Hands night morning, oh yes, my grandfather is the 1,000 Hands rain room, night morning self-reported doorway. Oh, is it a grandson in the rain? When Chinsho heard this, his face improved a lot. Boy, have you awakened Mu Duan? Quote. Suddenly, the thousand-hand pillar pointed to Yi-Chen and asked with surprise. In the midst of 1,000 hands, when Uchiha Senna heard this, they were all shocked, and then they all looked at Yi-Chen. Yes, First Lord. Yi-Chen nodded with a smile on his face. Haha, not bad, not bad. I didn't expect that my 1,000 hands clan, besides me, there were people who awakened Mu Dun. The 1,000-hand pillar laughed loudly, and then, looking at Yi-Chen, he asked expectantly, Boy, you and Xiaogang want to cheer, maybe the next generation can awaken Mu Duan. Quote. When Yi-Chen heard this, he was speechless for a while. Today, he finally saw how unreliable the 1,000-hand pillar was. Compared with the unreliability between the 1,000-hand pillars, the 1,000 hands are much more reliable. He got a shocking news from Yi-Chen's words. You just said that you are the last male Ding Jiao Jiao Hao in the current lineage. The dark red pupils of the filthy earth reincarnation between the 1,000 hands shrank, and looked at the night morning demon with some disbelief. Yi-Chen nodded, and then, he glanced at Ape Flying Sun Chopper suspiciously. He didn't understand why Ape Flying Sun Chopper didn't control these 3 people, but let these 3 people have that time to chat. What Yi-Chen didn't know was that it wasn't Ape Flying Sun who didn't want to control the 3 people between the 1,000-hand pillars. Rather, he did not fully study and understand the rebirth of dirt. In the final analysis, the Ape Flying Sun Chop is not a big snake pill, and the medicine master pockets these scientific research geniuses. What he needs is Senjukuma, and Uchiha Senna, who have the strength to fight against Yakin. And if you want the summoned person to have more strength before death, you must let their soul and the body of the sacrifice have a certain amount of time to merge. Therefore, this is also the reason why Ape Flying Sun Chopper obviously does not want to face the 1,000 hands, but he has not controlled it for a long time. What the hell is going on? What happened to the Senju clan now? Quote. Seeing Yi-Chen nodding, his heart clicked. Well, and if there was a heartbeat. Lord Suma, this is going to ask your good apprentice. Since his death, Konoha has experienced World War II and 3 wars, and in each war, the Senju clan has been coerced or lured by your good apprentices, and all went to war. Moreover, many clansmen disappeared inexplicably. After the 3 battles were over, the entire Senju clan was left with only me and Tsunade. And Tsunade also left Konoha because of the calculation of some people and made his home in the ninja world. Quote. When Yi-Chen said this, he paused and glanced at the livid-faced Senjukuma, the solemn-looking Senjukuma, and the gloating Uchiha Senna, before continuing, a year ago, the 9 tails attacked Konoha, and I inadvertently awakened Mu Duan, showing great strength, so that some people did not dare to act recklessly. Then, in the name of the current patriarch, I summoned those clansmen who had integrated into Konoha. But I didn't expect that the clansmen who integrated into Konoha back then were also poisoned. Those ethnic groups at that time, not only did not produce more people in these years, but the population continued to decrease. By the time I summoned them back to their tribe, there were less than 1,000 of them. Quote. Hearing this, was so angry that he couldn't speak. At the beginning, he agreed to integrate some of the clansmen into Konoha in order to consider the end of the family's destruction. After all, wood shows in the forest, and the wind will destroy it. At the beginning, the 1,000 Hands clan produced a ninja god, and he was such a forbidden master, which can be said to have resounded the name of 1,000 Hands throughout the ninja world. It was fine when he and the Senjujuku were still alive, if he and the Senjujukuma were dead. If the 1,000 Hands clan does not have a top powerhouse born, the 1,000 Hands clan will definitely become the target of everyone. Just as he calculated, since the death of their older generation, the 1,000 Hands clan has not been suppressed by the top powerhouses, and something really has happened. But what he never expected was that the flame he laid for the family and the horse would also be eradicated. If it weren't for the birth of a top powerhouse like Yi-Chen, maybe his 1,000 Hands clan would really perish. Phew. 1,000 Hands let out a long breath, glanced at the ape flying sun chop unkindly, and then looked at Yi-Chen again. You continue, I want to hear how I, the precious apprentice, repay me as a mentor. Quote. Yi-Chen nodded, and then, continued, after all these years of investigation, I finally discovered the reason for the true decline of the 1,000 Hands clan. Yes, as Lord Kuruma thought, the decline of the Senju family is inseparable from the 3 generations. Moreover, I also found that the reason why they engaged in the 1,000 Hands clan was not only because they were afraid of the power of the 1,000 Hands clan. At the same time, they are still studying the wooden done of the first adult. Well, that is, the body of the first adult has long been chopped into unknown pieces by them. Quote. Nani, eating melons with a serious face. Oh no, it was 1,000-hand pillars who listened solemnly to the junior's story, and suddenly heard Yechin say that he was chopped up after he died, and he was immediately taken aback, and then he was furious. Okay, the rivers and mountains he worked so hard to fight down, not to mention the body was offered. At least there is a place to bury it. But now, Nima was chopped up by herself. However, the reaction arc between the 1,000 hands and pillars is different from others, and his first reaction after hearing that he was chopped and studied was to jump out and accuse the 1,000 hands of the pillars. Chiangma, you see, they all say that they won't let you engage in those dangerous research. Now it's okay, the apprentice you taught, there is a kind of learning, even my corpse will not be spared. Quote. Senjuma faced the accusation between the 1,000 hands and did not refute it. His intestines are now ruined. These 4 guys should have been shot to death in the first place. Haha, 1,000 hands, you have been retributed, right? The apprentice he taught himself destroyed his own family, and there is no peace after death, but retribution is not cool. Quote. Uchiha Senna, who had always been at odds with Senju, laughed out loud at this time. From the conversation between a few people just now, he had roughly guessed what the situation was now. This should be after his death. The eldest brother Uchiha still joined forces with Senjukuma to create a village called Konoha. And they Uchiha also moved into this village. If nothing else, the first leader of this village is Senjujuma. Although I don't know why his eldest brother did not become the leader. But the second generation leader must be this guy from the Senju Gate. Finally, the third generation is this guy's apprentice. Scold. The 1,000 Hands clan is really a good means, and the village leaders of 3 successive generations are all their people. But this is also retribution. The leader of the village chosen by himself, in the end, destroyed his own family, not even spared the corpse, and after death, he was summoned back to be driven by someone. Well, wait a minute. Suddenly, Uchiha Senna's smile froze. He looked at the 1,000 Hands with a gloomy face, and asked in a hoarse voice, 1,000 Hands, what kind of filthy soil rebirth did you study, right? To be able to summon the undead in the underworld back, it definitely takes something from the summoned person, and I should have been dead for decades. But I was still summoned back, so to speak, after I died, my body was chopped up by you and studied. Quote. When Yi Chen heard this, he also looked at the 1,000 Hands. He was also very puzzled at the beginning. When this Uchiha Senna died, even Konoha was not established, and Sarutobi Hinata may not have been born at that time. How did he find Uchiha Senna's cell tissue? Later, he thought that the 1,000 Hands pill was a researcher who was even more powerful than the big snake pill. Facing the corpse of Uchiha Senna, who has opened the kaleidoscope writing wheel eye, will Senjuma not be moved to study and study? And this is also the reason why Sarutobi was able to find the Uchiha Senna cell tissue. It was really right by Uchiha Senna. What a retribution. Ape Flying Sun, I need. Senjuma, who was trembling with anger, did not pay attention to Uchiha Senna's questioning at all, but turned his head to look at Sarutobi Hinata, ready to question him. But before Senju finished speaking, he was interrupted by the Ape Flying Sun. Okay, first adult, and teacher, your small talk time is over, now it's time to get down to business. The ape flew into the sun and made a seal. Control. Father. Between the 1,000 Hand pillars, between the 1,000 Hands, Uchiha Senna's expression suddenly changed, and Chi-Chi turned to face Yechin and Ju Shinai. It seems that there is still a fight to be fought. Looking at the 3 people who were controlled by the Ape Flying Sun, Yechin shook his head slightly. Then, he looked at Ju Shinai and asked, you choose one. Quote. Hearing this, Ju Shinai nodded, looked at the 3 people between the 1,000 Hands, the 1,000 Hand pillars, and the 3 of Uchiha Senna, and finally fell on the 1,000 Hands and said, I choose the second generation. I heard that the Flying Thunder God technique was developed by the second generation, and I just wanted to try my speed. Quote. Ju Shinai said, and a wisp of golden chakra appeared on his body. Rumble. The golden chakra, like a flame, turned Ju Shinai into a golden shin. Moreover, these golden chakras formed a cloak and wore it on Ju Shinai. And on this cloak, there are also hooked jade emerged. 9-tailed golden body mode. Shout. Ju, 433, Shinai didn't say a word more nonsense, and the whole person turned into a golden light and flew towards the 1,000 hands. What a speed, the power of the 9 tails. Although the body between the 1,000 hands is controlled, the consciousness and ability to speak are still there. Seeing Ju Shinai turn into golden light and fly towards him, he couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. Yes, unexpectedly, this little girl turned out to be more powerful than Mito and became a perfect human pillar force. In other words, this little girl is also a member of the Uzumaki clan, right? Quote. The 1,000-hand pillar also exclaimed in admiration. His wife, Uzumaki Mito, is the 9 tails pillar force. Moreover, the one-hand sealing technique is the strongest of the current generation of the Vortex clan. However, even his wife, Uzumaki Mito, could not turn on the 9 tails golden body mode like this. It's really fast, but be careful. As he spoke, his body involuntarily began to imprint. Water escape, water rush, rumble. The flat ground gave birth to water, forming a water cover, wrapping several people between the 1,000 hands, and then this area seemed to become an ocean, and a wave more than 10 meters high shot towards Ju Shinai, who flew over. Bang! The wave hit the ground, and immediately after, a large amount of water directly flooded the entire Uchiha station. The golden figure of Ju Shinai disappeared. Although I have seen the power of the second-generation purpose of water escape in the original work, I was still shocked by the feeling on the spot. What is this called water escape? It's just a sea escape. Quote. Yi Chen looked at the Uchiha family, who had completely turned into a Z country, and couldn't help but secretly smack his tongue. In a previous life, some people on the internet said that Senjuma was a man who made a contract with the sea. Now that he had personally experienced the water escape between 1,000 hands, he completely believed it. Little ghost, don't be distracted, let me see how far your Mu-dun cultivation is. Just as Yechen was sighing at the water escape between the 1,000 hands, the figure between the 1,000-hand pillars suddenly appeared in front of him. The moment it appeared between the 1,000-hand pillars, it swept over Yi Chen's leg. Bang! Yechen faced this blow between the 1,000-hand pillars, directly raised his hand to block, and immediately after, Yechen flew out. Mu-dun, Wood Dragon Art. After kicking Yechen into the air, the manipulated body between the 1,000-hand pillars directly released a big move against Yechen. Oh! A huge wooden dragon soared into the air and pounced directly towards Yi Chen. Mudden Mujibi. Boom, boom. Yi Chen, who was kicked and flew, fell on the water, looked at the menacing wooden dragon, clasped his hands, and drank loudly. Immediately afterwards, the earth shook for a while, and then a tall wall made entirely of wood appeared in front of him. Bang! The wooden dragon directly hit the tall city wall, and directly smashed a smash with the tall wooden city wall. Little ghost, have you forgotten me? After the ruins of the wooden city wall, the figure of Uchiha Senna suddenly appeared behind Yechen, holding a tie knife in his hand, and stabbed Yechen's heart. Poof! Yechen was stabbed by Uchiha Senna. Very good. Mu-dun doppelganger, the timing is very good. Uchiha Senna pulled out the taiji that penetrated Yechen's body and praised. And he pierced his body and fell to the ground in the morning, but at this time it turned into a wooden carving. Oh, it's a prize. Yechen slowly emerged from the wooden wall of the ruins and smiled slightly at Uchiha Senna. Little ghost, are you getting too carried away? Uchiha Senna said, and the 3 gukas in his chakra's eyes spun up, and then connected into a pattern of the day, 0. Father. Suddenly, Yi Chen's body felt direct, and he couldn't move. This, is it Uchiha Senna's pupil technique? It can hold the enemy and make it impossible for people to move. Quote. Yechen struggled, but still had no effect. Little ghost, I'm coming, be careful. Uchiha Senna's voice reached Yechen's ears. And the moment the voice came, Uchiha Senna had already arrived in front of Yechen. Immediately, his sword slashed towards Yi Chen's neck. Seeing that the Taidao was getting closer and closer to his neck, Yi Chen's originally dark eyes suddenly turned scarlet, and then a kaleidoscope pattern appeared in his eyes. The moment he opened the kaleidoscope chakra eye, Yechen's huge pupil power directly broke Uchiha Senna's pupil technique. Bending down slightly, he dodged Uchiha Senna's sword, and then pressed his palm towards Uchiha Senna's abdomen. Spiral pill. When Yechen's palm was about to touch Uchiha Senna's abdomen, a high-speed rotating blue chakra appeared in his palm. Bang! After a muffled sound, Uchiha Senna spun and flew out upside down. Shout! The ape flying Sunchop, who had just shot away Uchiha Senna, holding a golden hoop stick, suddenly appeared behind Yechin and smashed his head at Chen. Sensing the wind in the back of his head, Yechin just wanted to dodge. However, at this moment, in the sour soil under his feet, trees suddenly appeared, completely restraining the night morning. Mu done, tree binding art. At this time, the voice between the 1,000-hand pillars entered Yi Chen's ears. Bang! And at this time, the ape flying sun slashed a strong blow and also smashed down Susanoo. When the ape flying sun chop a stick was about to fall on Yi Chen's head, his kaleidoscope riding wheel eyes quickly rotated, and then a half-body skeleton condensed by blue chakra soared into the sky, directly saying that the ape flying sun chopped the whole person and flew out. Kaleidoscope Sharingan, isn't your kid from the Senju clan? Quote. Uchiha Senna looked at the night morning of the half-body Susanoo, and his face was full of confusion. This little devil just said that he is the current patriarch of the Senju clan, not the Uchiha clan, right? But how could this little devil write the wheel eye with a kaleidoscope? Yes, your kid just used Mu Duan, it should be 1,000 hands, why do you have a kaleidoscope writing wheel eye? Quote. The 1,000 hands pillar also looked at Susanoo with some confusion, and then he showed a look of sudden realization, is it possible? Did your father or mother cheat? Quote. Saying that, the 1,000-hand pillar also looked at Yechin with a gossipy face. Yi Chen was full of black lines, and he took a deep breath and said, I am indeed a member of the 1,000 Hands clan, my parents, and even my ancestors have not cheated, as for why do I have kaleidoscope writing wheel eyes? Quote. Yechin said, glanced at the ape flying sun chop in the distance, and the Senjukuma and Uchiha Senna, who were full of gossip and a little excited, slowly said, no comment. Quote. 1,000-hand pillars, Uchiha Senna. Sarutobi flying sunchop. Ape flying sun chopper naturally knew the intelligence of Yechin. I also heard Yechin say that his kaleidoscope was developed by him since his 20th century with Yin. And it was precisely because he listened to Yechin's words and saw the power of the kaleidoscope chakra that he launched the battle of Uchiha to exterminate the clan. Originally, he sent Jiraiya to drag out the night morning, and he and Danzo could lead people to destroy Uchiha and obtain enough chakra eyes to study. However, what he didn't expect was that Zilai did not delay the night morning as he ordered. On the contrary, Yechin seemed to have known his actions long ago and made arrangements in advance, which led to the current situation. Thankfully, he had already prepared to keep a hand, cultivated into a dirt reincarnation, and through the cells obtained from Danzo, he summoned the first, second, and unexpected Uchiha Senna. Otherwise, I am afraid that he will really be killed by Yechin tonight. Night morning, you retreat now, how about I don't know what happened today? Thinking of the night morning, there is not only a kaleidoscope writing wheel eye, but also a wooden dun. Even if there are 3 strong people such as the first generation and second generation of the rebirth of dirt, and Uchiha Senna, he is also full of jealousy of Yechin. Anyway, tonight, his people have destroyed so many people in the family of the 3 elders of Uchiha, and the Sharingan they have harvested is enough for him to study. After he agrees to have a kaleidoscope writing wheel eye, or a wooden escape, he will solve the night and morning before it is late. Ha! Yechin heard the words of the ape flying sun, but he smiled Immediately after, the kaleidoscopic pattern in the eye rotates. Rumble! The furious chakra erupted like a volcano. Susanoo, who was originally a half-skeleton body, quickly grew veins, skin, followed by half-sleeved clothes, and then, his head was covered by a helmet, and an armor appeared on his body. In the morning of the night, this is directly turned on the complete body Susanoo. This statue of Susanoo, 50 or 60 meters tall, covered in armor, is like a general who has fought on the battlefield. This time, the complete body Susanoo is much stronger than the last time he fought against Yao, and Susanoo when he fought against the second tail. The last time I opened Susanoo, it was because I had just obtained the kaleidoscope Sharingan and was not familiar with Susanoo's powers. And this time, he completely developed the power of Susanoo. However, Yechin knew that this level of Susanoo was not really a complete Susanoo. True complete body mustaches are at least 100 meters tall. Moreover, there is a pair of wings on the back, and it has become 3 heads and 6 arms. But his current Susanoo can't do that. Because, His kaleidoscopic writing wheel eye is not yet an eternal kaleidoscope. Ape Flying Sun, I know you also want the power of this pair of eyes, now. Let you feel the power of these eyes. Quote. At the center of Susanoo's eyebrows, Yechin looked down at the Ape Flying Sun, and then, controlling Susanoo to draw a long knife, slashed out at the Ape Flying Sun. Whining, the long knife that emitted blue light, as if it was about to open the heavens and the earth, carried the sound of air explosions, and fell towards the Ape Flying Sun. Mu Dun, Wooden Man Art. The 1,000-hand pillar was manipulated to come to the Ape Flying Sun, clasped his hands, and shouted loudly. Boom, boom. A huge wooden figure rose from the ground and took Susanoo's knife with both hands in a standard empty-handed position. Little ghost, although I don't know why you have a kaleidoscope chakra eye, but I think you are a descendant of my Uchiha clan. Now, let me see how much you do. Quote. At this time, Uchiha Sena's voice entered Yechin's ears. Immediately afterwards, a purple giant, also dressed in armor and holding a sword, appeared next to Susanoo in the night morning. Uchiha Sena also turned on the complete body Susanoo. Moreover, the moment he turned on Susanoo, the sword in his hand swung out and slashed directly towards Yechin. Seeing this, Susanoo put his hands together and shouted loudly, Mutton Wood Dragon Art. Quote. Oh, a wooden dragon rushed out from the ground and pounced on Uchiha Sena's Susanoo. The dragon head bit the sword of Uchi Izumi no Susanoo, but his body was wrapped around Susanoo's body. Little one, be careful, I'm going on. At this time, a prompt sound came from between the 1,000-hand pillars. Immediately afterwards, the wooden man who caught Yechin Susanoo's knife, grabbed Yechin's knife with one hand, clenched his fist with the other, and blasted towards Susanoo's face. Rumble. Yechin Susanoo's other palm grabbed the wooden man's fist, and suddenly, a strong wind rolled in all directions. It's not over yet. The voice between the 1,000-hand pillars came again. Immediately afterwards, 2 wooden dragons appeared on the wooden man and bit towards Susanoo in the night morning. Bang! Seeing this, Yechin manipulated Susanoo to kick the wooden man, and then grabbed the 2 wooden dragons with both hands and threw them hard. Rumble. The 2 wooden dragons connected the wooden man, and Susanoo in the night morning flung it out. Tudin, Tuliu River. The sound of Ape Flying Sun chopping came, and immediately after, Yechin only felt that his feet slipped, and the huge Susanoo directly fell apart. Call. At the moment when Susanoo of night morning fell, Susanoo of Uchiha Sena raised his sword high, volleyed into the air, and slashed down towards Yechin. It is worthy of being a second-generation head. Where there is no water, it is used out of thin air. This range of water ninjutsu, this is really amazing. The other side. The golden-bodied Ju Shinai rushed out from the bottom of the water, stood on the water, looked at the scene of the surrounding turning into a Z country, and then looked at the Senju on the opposite side. Exclaim aloud. But, I'm not bad either. Golden Ju Shinai suddenly smiled. And the 1,000 hands on the opposite side suddenly jumped to the back. Rumble. Senjuma had just left. A giant golden hand stretched out from the bottom of the water, but it grabbed an empty one. Snap. The 1,000 hands fell on the surface of the water, just standing firm. On. Suddenly, a burst of roaring sounds came from overhead, and the 1,000 hands suddenly raised their heads. Immediately, I saw that in midair, several arms appeared behind his back, holding several basketball-sized chakra balls, and slammed down on him. Spiral. Ju Shinai's voice entered the ears of the 1,000 hands, and then, in midair, those arms condensed by the golden chakra suddenly stretched out and smashed the spiral pills towards the 1,000 hands. Boom. Bursts of explosions blasted the water into the sky. Water escape. Water dragon bullet technique. The water wave that was blown up had not yet landed, and the sound of 1,000 hands came from all directions. Rumble. Oh. With the sound of 1,000 hands coming out, a huge water dragon rose up from below Ju Shinai, opened the dragon's mouth, and directly bit Ju Shinai in his mouth. Goo. Ju Shinai, who was bitten in the mouth by the water dragon, was protected by the chakra of the 9 tails, but there was nothing wrong. But it was still poured with a lot of water. Little girl, it seems that you haven't fully adapted to the power in your body. The figure between the 1,000 hands condensed out from the water not far away, looking at Ju Shinai, who was bitten in the mouth by the water dragon. Rumble. The water dragon exploded violently, and Ju Shinai's figure rushed down. Little girl, Pay attention, it's coming again. Senju frowned, and his body involuntarily began to imprint, and at the same time prompted Ju Shinai. Shui dun, 5 dragons strangle. Boom, boom, boom. 5 huge water dragons pounced on Ju Shinai from all directions. Second generation adult, don't underestimate people. Ju Shinai, who was surrounded and killed by 5 water dragons, did not seem to panic. When these 5 water dragons were about to attack him, 5 golden arms emerged from her body. And in the palms of these 5 golden arms, all of them condensed a spiral pill the size of a water tank. Boom, boom, boom. The 5 spiral pills collided with the 5 water dragons, and suddenly, another explosion sounded. Immediately afterwards, all 5 water dragons were blown up into splashes and scattered. Be careful, it's not over yet. Before Ju Shinai could catch his breath, a high-pressure water column the thickness of his thumb, like an indestructible blade, shot towards Ju Shinai. Water escape. Water-breaking wave art. Ju Shinai looked at the high-pressure water column that shot over, did not dare to respond, and quickly dodged to the side. Bang! The high-pressure water jet shot into a 3-story building, and it directly shot the building through. Moisture. However, after this water column shot through the building, it did not disappear, moving in the direction where Ju Shinai was dodging, and cut through. The building was directly cut in half by the high-pressure water column. Ha! Ju Shinai was like a golden light, running quickly around the 1,000 hands. Behind her, there was the high-pressure water column that was in hot pursuit. Suddenly, Ju Shinai accelerated, turned into golden light, and instantly came to the front of the 1,000 hands gate, and then smashed a punch on the face of the 1,000 hands gate. Bang! 1,000 hands were smashed and flew out, and along the way, it was like water floating on the surface of the water, stumbling. However, and that's not the end of it. I saw Ju Shinai flash again, catching up with the 1,000 hands, and a large jade spiral pill condensed in his hand. Hee, second Dame Sama, don't blame me for being ruthless. Came to Ju Shinai above the Senju gate, smiled, and then the spiral pill smashed down against the Senju gate. Little girl, you underestimate me too much. Shout. After saying with a smile on his face, he suddenly disappeared in front of Ju Shinai's eyes. Bang! Ju Shinai's spiral pill slammed on the surface of the water and exploded directly. Ju Shinai, on the other hand, looked solemn. Flying Thunder God technique. Ju Shinai looked at the 1,000 hands 100 meters away, his brows locked. Little girl, where are you looking? In the distance, between the 1,000 hands, suddenly reminded loudly again. Ha! When Ju Shinai heard this, she froze for a moment, and then her pupils suddenly dilated. I saw that in the air around her, a densely packed detonation charm appeared. Ninfa multiplied detonation charm. Boom, 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 boom. Those detonating charms burst into light, and immediately after, a piece of paper exploded like a cannonball. Call. Continuous explosions formed gas waves, carrying water vapor, and scraping in all directions. This little girl won't be killed, will he? Looking at the place shrouded in gunsmoke, Senju frowned and said with some concern. In fact, as the creator of the forbidden technique of soil rebirth, he knew how to solve it. But that must also be before it is controlled. If the summoner has been given 2 orders by the spellcaster, the summoner's command must be fully ordered to regain control of the body. But, maybe you can. Senju frowned, thinking about how to crack the control of the rebirth of the soil. At this time, a huge golden arm suddenly stretched out from under his feet and directly grabbed his whole person in his hand. Crash! Ju Shinai climbed his strength from the water, Li Jiao with some embarrassment. The scene just now was too dangerous. If she hadn't moved her wit and retreated directly into the water, she wouldn't have died at that time, and I am afraid that she would have been seriously injured. Phew, finally caught. Ju Shina was relieved to see Senju being caught by her. She now has too little practical experience. So much so that when facing such old fritters as 1,000 hands, one who is not careful will suffer a big loss. So, now is the time to seal. Quote, King Kong blockade. Ju Shinai clasped his hands together, and then a series of golden iron chains shot towards the 1,000 hands that were caught. Shout. Just when the golden iron chain was about to touch the senjutsu, the 1,000 hands suddenly disappeared again. At the same time, the voice of 1,000 hands came. Ninju, Shuriken Shadow Doppelganger. Flying Thunder God Slash. Chapter 71. Ninjutsu, the art of the shadowless doppelganger. Whoops. A handful of kunai flew towards Jushinai from a distance. There were originally only a few of these bitter nothing. But in the process of flying to Jushinai, these sufferings are not divided into two, and three. In an instant, these bitter wives turned into countless handfuls, and flew towards Jushinai densely. In the face of Kuwu flying like a storm, Jushinai was unhurried, while dodging. While heading in the direction of Senjuma. Flying Thunder God, chop, shout. Suddenly, the figure between the 1,000 hands disappeared in place. After passing through Jushinai, he suddenly appeared behind Jushinai. And at this time, the 1,000 hands were still holding a kunai in his hand. Is this the second generation Flying Thunder God? Although it is the same as the Water Gate, it is the Flying Thunder God, and the Flying Thunder God of the Water Gate has been improved. But to say that the creator of the second generation of the head, is even better. Quote. Jushinai turned his head to look at Senjukuma and couldn't help but admire. She had seen the Flying Thunder God art of the Wave Feng Shui Gate. I also know that after learning the Flying Thunder God, Wave Feng Shuimin has also improved itself. However, Bo Feng Shuimin is still young after all, although Flying Thunder God has developed a lot of tricks. However, compared to the second generation, the use of ninjutsu is somewhat worse. Little girl, you are not bad, even I hit it. Senju also turned around and looked at Jushinai. And when Jushinai heard this, he smiled, and then bang! Jushinai turned into a cloud of white smoke and disappeared. This turned out to be just Jushinai's shadow doppelganger. Ha! Suddenly, a golden light flashed and flew towards the 1,000 hands. Second Dame Sama, I'm going to use all my strength, right? Jushinai's voice came into the ears of 1,000 hands from all directions. Haha, just what I want. 1,000 hands laughed loudly, and instantly disappeared in place, appearing on a bitter edge in the distance. Rumble. The position where Senjuma had just stood flashed with golden light, and then a fist hit the surface of the water, exploding a wave. Shout. The 1,000 hands that had originally disappeared suddenly appeared again. Moreover, it still appeared behind Jushinai. Kuwu stabbed directly at the back of Jushinai's head. Shout. Just when Kuwu was about to stab Jushinai Kaj flashed golden again, disappeared in place, and appeared on top of Senju's head. Spiral Pill. A spiral pill was instantly condensed by Jushinai and pressed towards the 1,000 hands. Senjukuma disappeared again and appeared in the distance, and immediately after, Senjukuma faced the direction of Jushinai and once again used the bitter shadow doppelganger technique. Suddenly, Jushinai was shrouded in bitter rain again. Swish. Ha! The figure between 1,000 hands does not change in the bitter rain. And Jushinai also turned into golden light, constantly flashing in the bitter rain. Suddenly, the two started a speed competition. A moment later, Senju and Jushinai face off separately. And this is a race of speed, which seems to have passed a long time. But in fact, from the beginning to the end, it is just those moments when the suffering does not fly and land. In this competition of speed, the two are indistinguishable. Although, at this time, Jushinai was a little breathless, and chakra also consumed a lot. But for her, who has a 9-tailed power bank, it is simply not worth mentioning. And between the 1,000 hands is the body of the reincarnation of dirt, with unlimited chakra, as well as physical strength. Therefore, consumption is even more impossible. Illusion, dark walking. Suddenly, 1,000 hands clasped together, and then Jushinai felt that a darkness quickly enveloped her. Is this an illusion? How is this possible? Quote. Jushinai looked at the dark space around him, full of incredulity. Illusion is the ability to hallucinate enemies by disturbing their chakra. And she, as a 9-tailed human pillar force, has the assistance of the 9 tails in her body, and secretly said that she will not be able to fall into illusion. Little girl, this is not an ordinary illusion technique. This technique is specially used by Senjukuma to deal with the Sharingan of the Uchiha clan. This technique, even the Uchiha family, who are proficient in illusion, may be hit, don't be careless. Quote. At this time, the figure of the 9 tails sounded in Jushinai's mind. Illusion specially developed for the Uchiha clan. When Ju Shinai heard this, the corners of his mouth twitched, and his heart said, how much does this second generation hate the Uchiha family? By the way, this technique is the vision of the predatory magician, be careful, he is here. The voice of the Nine Tails came again. Suddenly, Ju Shinai suddenly felt a feeling of uneasiness spread to his heart. She instantly turned into golden light and disappeared. Swish! Ju Shinai had just disappeared, and a cold glow cut through the air and cut at the position where Ju Shinai had just stood. Good risk. Due to being robbed of her vision, Ju Shinai did not know that she had just been almost cut. But the feeling of uneasiness in my heart disappeared temporarily. She knew that she had just been attacked. 9 llamas, what should I do now? Ju Shinai looked at the darkness around him, and there was no room for a sound, and he couldn't help but panic. Although Ju Shinai looked very grinning, but after all, she was a girl, and she was also afraid of this darkness without a trace of sound. Stupid, you are a member of the Vortex clan, although this technique can rob your vision, it will not plunder your blood succession limit. The words that the Nine Tails hated iron could not become steel sounded in Ju Shinai's mind. Blood succession limit, I have, well, there really is. Ju Shinai just wanted to say that she had no blood succession limit, but halfway through, she was stunned. Kagura hard eye, open. Father. Ju Shinai closed his eyes and opened the blood succession limit, Kagura hard eye, unique to the Uzumaki clan. And the moment she opened Kagura's eyes, the scene around her changed. It's not dark. Instead, it turned gray and white, and at the same time, she also saw clearly around her. Here, suddenly, Ju Shinai turned around sharply, and a spiral pill hit him. Bang! The 1,000 hands that had just appeared behind her had hit this spiral pill of Ju Shinai solidly, and flew out with a spin. And at the moment when 1,000 hands flew out upside down, the darkness of Ju Shinai's eyes seemed to be dispelled, and she was once again senseless. Boom, boom. Just as Ju Shinai was about to take advantage of the victory to pursue, suddenly, the earth began to shake violently. Ju Shinai looked up in one direction, and suddenly, she saw a blue demon god giant, grappling with a wooden figure and another purple giant. Have you been forced to this point so quickly? Looking at the blue giant who fought 1 against 2, Ju Shinai's face showed worry. Ahem. Shimura Danzo coughed up a large wad of blood, supported the ground with his hands, and gasped for air. Opposite him, a half-figure was a giant with a long knife pointing at him. Look at Shimura Danzo's arm full of chakra eyes. At this time, the chakra eye on this arm has been completely closed. And this also shows that his resurrection coins are running out. Tuan Zhang, I didn't expect that you would also have today, right? Uchiha Fugaku, who had blood and tears in his eyes, looked at the embarrassed Danzo with a happy face. This guy uses the Sharingan as a resurrection coin, although the attack power is not strong, but it is extremely difficult. Because, every time it is clear, kill the old guy. This guy will come out of other places, attack him. This made Uchiha Fugaku feel like he was playing whack-a-mole. Almost ground his kaleidoscope. However, now the chakra eye on this guy's arm has been completely consumed. This is finally the end. Danzo, for the sins you have committed, accept the sanctions. Quote. Uchiha Fugaku said, and manipulated Susanoo to raise his long knife high and slash down at Danzo. Ha, ha ha. Suddenly, Tuan Zhang laughed inexplicably. Uchiha Fugaku, my Danzo can die at the hands of anyone, but I can't die at the hands of Uchiha's people, let's go to hell together. Tuan Zhang said, pulling the clothes on his body, revealing his shriveled body and the black runes on his body. Not good. Uchiha Fugaku, who was preparing to stab Danzo, saw the next scene, his face suddenly changed, and even Susanoo did not close, directly jumped out of Susanoo and retreated. Re-4 Elephant Seal. Father. Swish. Meanwhile, strands of black, ink-like things erupted from the body of the group. Danzo, who cast the Re-4 Elephant Seal, saw Uchiha Fugaku withdraw from his sealing range, and was not annoyed, but instead showed an imperceptible smile. And without Uchiha Fugaku's attention, Danzo's eyes, which had been covered by white bandages, slowly lost their brilliance. Father. The Re-4 Elephant Seal completely erupted, directly forming a black, circular enchantment, enveloping this area, along with the slowly dissipating Dosasano. Bang! A loud noise spread in all directions, and then the black circular enchantment quickly shrunk and finally disappeared. And after this black enchantment disappeared, a huge and incomparable pit appeared in front of Uchiha Fugaku. Good risk. Almost caught the old guy's way. Quote, looking at the giant pit in front of him, Uchiha Fugaku had palpitations. He almost died with Tuan Zhang. Boom, boom, boom. Suddenly, the earth shook for a while, and Uchiha Fugaku suddenly looked up in the direction where Yechen was. Suddenly, his whole person was stunned. I saw that on the edge of the Uchiha clan, almost out of the area of Konoha village, 3 giants who were 50 or 60 meters tall and looked like demon gods were killing each other. Kido, Susanoo, or 2. Uchiha Fugaku was shocked. He knew that there was a kaleidoscope of chakra eyes in the night morning, and if a statue of Susanoo appeared, then he thought it was the night morning. But there are 2 of them, and neither of them is obviously alone. Did you say, was it the guy who released the 9 tails back then? Quote, Uchiha Fugaku suddenly thought of the guy who released the 9 tails back then, and his brows furrowed. No, that wooden figure is not distributed by the night morning. What the hell is going on? Uchiha Fugaku was startled again. Because, with his kaleidoscope chakra eyes, he saw the blue Susanoo night morning. The other statue, Susanoo and Kido, were actually attacking Yechen. Uchiha Fugaku quickly looked at the purple Susanoo statue and the wooden man. Suddenly, he was shocked. What did he see? He actually saw the first generation, and his son Sasuke. No, he's not Sasuke, and the first generation, and Daishui just now. Uchiha Fugaku frowned and pondered for a moment, and then he was shocked. It's the rebirth of the soil, it must be the rebirth of the soil. Quote, as the patriarch of the Uchiha clan, although he had never seen the forbidden arts in the Book of Seals, he still had the information of those forbidden arts, and he Uchiha Fugaku. Seeing the original Hokage, and the Uchiha powerhouse who resembled his family Sasuke, and then think about the water that had just suddenly appeared. He thought of a forbidden technique that could control the undead, and the soil was reborn. The ape flying sun, actually daring to blaspheme the ancestors, it's just. For Sarutobi Hinata to summon the first and second generations, he Uchiha Fugaku does not care. On the contrary, the first and second generations were desecrated, and he was still a little happy in his heart. But, you are playing with the ancestors of my Uchiha clan, this is excessive. Uchiha Fugaku, who was full of anger, took a breath, raised his legs and walked towards the battlefield on the other side of the night morning. Poof! Suddenly, Uchiha Fugaku felt a pain in his heart, and the whole person was stunned in place. Uchiha Fugaku, today is your time to die. Shimura Danzo's voice came from behind Uchiha Fugaku. Uchiha Fugaku listened to Danzo's voice, and turned his head in disbelief. I saw a smile on Tuan Zhang's dry face, and the bandage that had been covering his eyes had disappeared by this time. A closed eye was revealed. There is actually a chakra eye. Uchiha Fugaku looked at Danzo's closed eyes, and said in disbelief while spitting blood. What do you say? Danzo was a little proud, and then, full of distress, muttered to himself, in order to deal with you, I even have the eyes of the mirror. Uchiha Fugaku, you can rest in peace. Quote, Uchiha, mirror. Quote, Uchiha Fugaku heard Shimura Danzo's words and remembered a genius who was also their Uchiha clan. Uchiha mirror. This Uchiha mirror is not simple. Not only was he the strongest in the Uchiha clan back then, but he was also a disciple of the second generation Hokage. He didn't expect that this guy Tuanzo actually transplanted the eye of Uchiha mirror. Moreover, this eye is also used as a resurrection coin. This is simply a violent thing. You know, the writing wheel eye of the Uchiha mirror is also a kaleidoscope writing wheel eye. Now it's so ruined by Tuan Zhang. This day is unreasonable. On the periphery battlefield where the Uchiha clan is stationed. Thump. Kakashi threw Sarutobi Shinosuke to the ground like a chicken. Looking at Nara Shikahisa, his tone was indifferent. This is the person that Lord Yechen wants. Quote. Nara Shikaku looked at the embarrassed Sarutobi Shinosuke, and after finding that he was only unconscious and not dead, he looked at Kakashi and showed a smile. It's really thanks to you, catching this guy, Konoha's casualties can be reduced a lot. Quote. Kakashi nodded, didn't say anything more. held the white fang knife, and stood aside. At this time, Kakashi's personality is almost exactly the same as Sasuke in the original book, not good at words, arrogant, and full of despair in his heart. However, at this time, Kakashi looked in the direction of the Uchiha clan's station, and there was something more in his eyes. Luju, the rest will be left to you, I'll go to Yechin to take a look. Hinata, covered in blood, carried 2 people in his hands, walked to Nara Shikahisa, put the 2 people on the ground, and spoke. Nara Shikahisa looked at the 2 people who were unconscious when Hinata put on the ground, and when they saw their appearance clearly, they were immediately happy. Aren't these our 2 advisors? Nara Shikahisa said with a smile and looked at Hinata. Not bad, caught 2 fat sheep, a great accomplishment. Quote. When Hinata heard this, a smile also appeared on her serious face. Truly, this time he really caught the fat sheep. And after this battle, Konoha was doomed to reshuffle. Now he has caught these 2 fat sheep, which can be regarded as a great achievement. After Konoha is stabilized again, the benefits that his Hyuga clan can obtain will definitely not be low. Thinking of that lucrative benefit, how could Hinata not like it? However, Nara Shikahisa's next words made his smile freeze. Okay, when the time comes, let Yechin give you a Hokage son-in-law. Quote. Haha. After Nara Shikahisa finished the meeting, he laughed very unkindly. Haha. The surrounding Akamichi Dingza, Yamanaka Haichi and the others, after hearing this, also laughed out loud one by one. At the Hokage conference, Yakin himself was going to marry Hinata's unborn daughter, but they still remember very clearly. Now the Great War is won, and the big stone has fallen with a big pressure in the heart. And these people are almost all from the Dragon Heroes, and they should be happy to joke. After hearing Nara Shikaku's words, the corners of Hinata's mouth twitched, and he simply ignored these people, and turned to look at the reassurance of the Uchiha clan, HMPH. There is a son-in-law of Hokage, and the son-in-law with such strength is not bad, don't be sour for some people in the future. Quote. The people around who were laughing heard Hinata's words. I was stunned. Nara Shikaku was even more stuck in laughter, and then he pondered. Although the situation has not yet been determined on Yechin's side, with Yechin's strength, there is definitely no problem in dealing with the ape-flying sun. In other words, Konoha's day is really going to change. And he could see that Yechin's ambition was very great. He had heard more than once about the unified theory of the night morning. If it is an ordinary person, it is definitely not a good thing to have such ambitions. But Yechin is different, he has Mu Duan, and he also has a kaleidoscope riding wheel eye. This is simply a combination of the Senju pillar and the Uchiha spot. At the critical time, Yechin was still very young. Now he received Konoha, which did not have any serious losses. Nara Shikahisa had no doubt that Yorichin would not bring his theory of unification to reality. Maybe, Yechin can really unify the entire ninja world and become the first emperor in his story. And at that time, those of them who first started with the night morning will definitely be able to obtain huge benefits. However, will these heroes from the dragon be able to compare with the father-in-law's family at that time? Nara Shikahisa's head raced quickly, and finally, he quietly came to Yamanaka Haichi's side, pulled him and whispered, Haichi, I heard that your girlfriend is the same age as Hinata's Hinata. And, not bad looking. Hinata Hiyashi looked at everyone who couldn't laugh in an instant, and a smug look appeared on his serious face. Hee, look at you Kea, still laughing at me, that guy in the night morning is older than my daughter. Ah, just in your 20s, what's there? As long as Hinata is happy. Quote. Hinata Hiyashi said and made a bitter face. In fact, he had thought about letting Yechin not be so beastly, Hinata was still so young, don't beat her idea. However, for the sake of the family, he could only turn a blind eye. Moreover, now that Yechin is in control of the overall situation, Konoha will have the final say in the future. Even if he doesn't allow it, those old guys in the family won't agree, right? Thinking about it again, Hinata spent all day and night with his brother, and his brother read the night morning, and he was rotten. As he just said, having a son-in-law of Hokage is not bad. Boom, boom. Suddenly, the earth began to shake continuously, and then a roar reached everyone's ears. The ninja troops of the Nara Shikaku and other clan who had just finished the battle became alert one by one. Immediately, one by one, the eyes looked at the voice coming down. Dang dang. A ninja's short knife fell to the ground with a crisp sound. Thump. One of the Naka ninjas slumped on the ground with a weak leg. Plopped down. One by one, the ninjas who had just won the battle widened their eyes, retreated in shock, and fell to the ground. Is this still a fight between ninjas? Quote, God. This is the power of God. Quote, oh my God. In this level of battle, we have no possibility of interfering at all. Quote, Knight, Lord Yechin, the blue giant is Lord Yechin. Quote, wait, that wooden dragon was not summoned by Lord Yechin, who is on top of the wooden dragon's head. And who is in the purple giant? Quote, initial, the first order, that's the first generation. Oh my God, how can the first generation still be alive? Moreover, why did he attack Lord Yechin? Isn't Lord Yechin also a member of the Senju clan? Quote, when these ninjas saw the battle between the three of Night Morning, Senju Pillar, and Uchiha Senna, they first felt a sense of powerlessness. That is the feeling of powerlessness brought about by the strong who crushed them. Immediately afterwards, these ninjas fried the pot one by one. Because many people saw the Night Morning at the center of the blue giant's eyebrows. Later, they saw a wooden dragon between the thousand-handed pillars. Boiling. These ninjas who had just won a victory were all boiling. Dirt rebirth. Nara Shikaku gritted his teeth and slowly spit out these words, and then turned his head to look at everyone. Everyone, the time to decide the victory or defeat has come, the upper ninja level, and those who have the ability to fight, all follow me. Quote, yes, boy, be careful. Some anxious voices between the thousand-hand pillars entered Yi Chen's ears. And at this time, in the Night Morning, he was sneaked up on by the ape flying sun with a dirt escape, and directly fell a butt mound. Uchiha Senna manipulated Susanoo again and slashed towards his head. The battle situation seems to be extremely dangerous, and the night seems to be a cool rhythm. But Yechin did not panic in the slightest. He looked up at Susanoo who was slashing at him, and slowly closed his eyes, as if he was resigned. Ha, it's over. Quote, the ape flying above the wooden man's head looked at Yechin who closed his eyes, and also thought that he had resigned himself. Can't help but smile on ape face Sunchop's face. However, on Yechin's side, seeing Uchiha Senna's Susanoo long knife, he was about to split. Yechin suddenly opened his eyes, and immediately after, a blood tear flowed from his left eye. Go back in time. Father. Yi Chen's left kaleidoscope writing wheel eye rotated, and immediately after, his body was wrapped in a milky white energy. Shout. Yechin and the huge Susanoo disappeared in front of the three in an instant. Bang. Uchiha Senna's Susanoo long knife slashed at the earth, and all of a sudden, the entire land was split into a ravine. What's going on? What about people? Quote, the smile on Sarutobi Hinata's face froze on his face, and his eyes widened, looking at the ravine that had been split by Uchiha Senna, as if looking for the figure of Yechin. Space Ninjutsu. The thousand-hand pillar also stared at the place where Yechin disappeared, and his brows furrowed. No, I didn't sense the fluctuations in the surrounding space. What exactly is it? Quote, although the thousand-hand pillar had not practiced spatial ninjutsu. But he has a younger brother who can study space ninjutsu. He also knew about space ninjutsu. And as far as he knows, when launching space ninjutsu, the surrounding space will have some fluctuations. But he had just clearly not perceived spatial fluctuations. But Yechin disappeared so abruptly. Kaleidoscope pupil technique. Uchiha Senna also looked at the place where Yechin disappeared, his brows furrowed. However, he is also a person with kaleidoscopic chakra eyes. Knowing that the kaleidoscope chakra eye is the eye of the heart, each pair of kaleidoscopic chakra eyes will give birth to the corresponding pupil technique according to the deep thoughts of the host's mind. And the pupil technique that had just suddenly made Yechin disappear, at first he also thought it was a spatial pupil technique. But, like the thousand-hand pillar, he didn't sense the fluctuations of space at all. It's not a space-type pupil technique, then. It's the pupil technique of the time class. It's a time-type ninjutsu. Senjukuma and Uchiha Senna were almost at the same time, looking at the place where Susanoo had been opened in the first night. Really, they were in that place and saw the Night Morning intact. Well, it can't be said to be intact. At the very least, the blood and tears that flowed from the left eye made people see an abnormal horror. It's worthy of being a strong man in the Warring States period, and I saw my pupil technique so quickly. Seeing this scene in the morning of the night, he couldn't help but sigh with emotion. As they guessed, his kaleidoscopic pupil technique was indeed temporal. Perhaps it is also because it is a time-based pupil surgery. When I just opened the kaleidoscope chakra eye, it was not immediately conceived. And when this pair of kaleidoscopic chakra eyes gave birth to these two pupils, he was also shocked. There is such a sentence in the fantasy web text in the previous life, space is king, time is respected. Just looking at this sentence, it is enough to see how perverted the time class skills are. And his kaleidoscope writing wheel eye, a pupil technique that gave birth to two time classes. The pupil of the left eye, named in the night morning, time backtracking. After launching the time retrospective of this pupil technique, Yechin can turn the time back within 50 meters centered on him. However, this rewinding is only 5 minutes. That is, after the night morning launch this time backtracking. He can turn back the time in the 50-meter area, 2 minutes. 5 minutes ago. Moreover, he can also choose to act on him alone, as well as within a range of 50 meters. And he just used time to go back, acting on him, and put it back to the time period when he had just opened Susanoo. And his right eye pupil technique, also a time class, is called time acceleration. The range of the spell is also 50 meters, and it can act on itself. And, again, 5 minutes. As the name suggests, individual techniques can speed up the flow of time. Kaleidoscope writing wheel eye is the eye of the soul. It stands to reason that in the case of this traverser in the night morning, it should be a relatively high probability of pupil technique of awakening space. But why do you awaken the pupil technique of the time class? Yechin pondered this question for a long time. The most answered was obtained. The reason why he awakened the pupil technique of time was entirely because deep in his heart, he had the idea of wanting time to turn around. Before he owned the system, he was just a traverser of waste. He knows where the plot is going, but because of his lack of strength and too little guts, he has lost many friends, such as Rope Tree, Rin, and the clansmen of the Senju clan who have befriended him. After he has strength, sometimes he subconsciously thinks, if he can carry this strength back to those years, those tragedies will not happen, right? Perhaps for this reason, the pupil technique he gave birth to was not as spatial as he thought. It's time class. Is it really a time class? It's really a terrifying pupil technique. Quote. Uchiha Senna sighed with some envy. He and his eldest brother Uchiha are the first to be born kaleidoscopic existences. But he and his eldest brother's pupil skills are not very good. His eldest brother's pupil technique is amplified. And his pupil technique is illusion-like. Therefore, now after seeing Yechin's pupil technique, it turned out to be a time class, he was envious. Haha, it's really interesting, there is even a time class technique, it's amazing. Quote. The 1,000-hand pillars on the wooden dragon's head also laughed. He has been fighting for many years and has been to many places in the ninja world, even the legendary Holy Land. He had seen and heard many kinds of ninjutsu, occult arts, and blood succession limits. But this is the first time I have seen an overtime technique. This kind of technique must be very interesting to study, right? Senjukuma thought so. Yi Chen spoke. So, the second round began. Quote. So, second round. Just the beginning. Yi Chen smiled slightly, and then said such a sentence. Suddenly, whether it was Senjukuma, Uchiha Senna, and Sarutobi Hinata, they all had serious expressions. Under the gaze of the three people, Yechin suddenly disappeared. Immediately afterwards, in front of Uchiha Senna, a tall giant suddenly appeared. Uchiha Senna's pupils shrank slightly. Immediately, the tall blue giant slashed at Uchiha Izumi no Susanoo's body. Suddenly, the purple Susanoo, the armor on his body was shattered, and he flew out directly upside down. Accelerate. At this time, the voice of the night morning reached the ears of several people. Is this an acceleration of time? Terrible. Quote. The 1,000-hand pillar sighed in admiration, and said with a solemn face, 943, time accelerated, directly skipped the time of Susanoo's condensation, and the time of advance, and instantly reached the place he wanted to reach. Heck, this technique is even weirder than the flying thunder god between the thunders. Quote. Weird indeed. If it is space ninjutsu, then for a strong person like him, he can more or less perceive a trace of spatial fluctuations. However, Yechin is not a space ninjutsu, but a purely normal action. Not bad. It's normal action. It's just that this action adds time. In other words, all the actions of the night and morning are normal, but he accelerates the time of his actions. It's like an ordinary person. From the first point to the second point, it takes 1 minute. Night morning, on the other hand, speeds up this minute, while others are still in this minute. This makes people feel that the night morning appears at the second point instantly. In fact, Yi Chen had already walked his minute. And this is the horror of the power of time. It's really difficult. Senjutsu scratched his head. No matter how he thought about it, there was no way to crack this time-type ninjutsu. First Lord, it's your turn now. Yechin manipulated Susanoo to turn his head and look at the senjutsu pillar on the wooden figure. Father. And the voice of the night morning just fell. Next second, the huge Susanoo appeared in front of him, and immediately after, he slashed at the position of the dragon's head. Bang! The wooden dragon was directly split in half by Yi Chen. Turned into a pile of wood. Hehe, these two pupil techniques are really easy to use, that is, a little waste pupil power, even if it has an immortal body, it can't offset such consumption. It seems that the eternal kaleidoscope writing wheel eye will be arranged as soon as possible. I don't know if the time limit will increase after the kaleidoscope evolves to the eternal kaleidoscope. After all, these 5 minutes are still too short. Moreover, if only I could have more time, I wonder if I could directly travel through the past and the future. Quote. Feeling the pupil power consumption in the eyes of the kaleidoscope writing wheel, and thinking of these two perverted pupil techniques, Yechin couldn't help but get up. If these two pupils do not have this 5-minute time limit, it should not be difficult to travel through the past and the future. Moreover, his current kaleidoscope has not yet evolved to eternity. He felt that if the kaleidoscope evolved into an eternal kaleidoscope, this 5-minute time limit could definitely be broken. And if the eternal kaleidoscope can break this limit, then what will happen when he obtains the Eye of Reincarnation, or even the Eye of Reincarnation? Is it possible to ignore time constraints and travel through the past and the future? Night Morning is very much looking forward to it. Let's get back to business. After splitting the wooden dragon into a pile of rotten wood that night, his gaze fell on the ape flying sun chop standing on top of the wooden man's head. Seriously, with his current strength, if it weren't for the 1,000-hand pillar, Uchiha Senna, who would have chopped off this little arm and leg by flying sun, it would not be enough for him to slash with a knife. Yechin didn't talk much nonsense, directly slashed at the ape flying sun, and swung out a knife. HMPH. Night Morning, you are too small to watch the movie. Seeing this, Ape Fei snorted coldly and bit his finger, performing psychic techniques to summon the ape demon. Immediately, he turned the ape demon into a golden hoop rod. However, when the ape demon turned into a golden hoop rod, he directly threw it out. Rui Golden Hoop, get bigger. Ape Flying Sun shouted loudly. Yechin heard the words of the ape flying sun, and was almost thundered by him. Nima, Rui Golden Hoop has become larger, how can this sound unorthodox? Father, just as Yechin was thinking about it, the Rui Golden Hoop rod thrown by the ape flying sun quickly became larger, and then it was caught by the wooden man and blocked above its head. 0. Rumble. Susanoo's long knife slashed directly at the Rui Golden Hoop rod in the wooden man's hand, and directly erupted into a shock wave, heading in all directions. Sorry, Sarutobi, I'm over here. Bang! On the golden hoop rod in the wooden man's hand, an eye was exposed, and after saying a word to the ape flying sun, it turned into white smoke and returned to the psychic world. This is because Susanoo's sword was too powerful, and he directly beat the ape demon back. Mew done, Flower Tree Realm descends. At this moment, the voice between the 1,000-hand pillars came. Boom, boom, boom. At the same time as the sound of the Senju pillar, huge vines rose up into the sky, surrounding Yechin and Susanoo in the middle. Phew. Above the vines, flower stamens slowly bloomed, and then a yellow pollen completely enveloped the night. Moreover, these pollen do not know what happened, but they can pass through Susanoo and float towards the night and morning. Yi Chen, who also owns Mu Duan, naturally knows that these pollen are poisonous. I saw that Susanoo was at the center of his eyebrows, and he also clasped his hands together and shouted, Mud and Flower Tree Realm has arrived. Quote. Boom, boom, boom. Another huge vine emerged from the ground. It's just that this time the vine is centered on the night morning and spreads in all directions. Moment. The vines that originally surrounded the night and morning were all washed away. Fire! Fire extinguished. Uchiha Sena's voice came from behind Yi Chen. When Yechen turned around and looked over, he saw Uchiha Sena controlling the purple giant and releasing a sea of fire. Yes, it's the fire released by Susanoo. And through Susanoo's increase, this fire covered the entire area like a natural disaster. Water escape, water boundary wall. Seeing this in the morning of the night, not to be outdone, the huge blue giant, with his hands sealed, released the boundless waters. Moisture. The collision of water and fire instantly caused a thick mist to rise around them. Mu done. Wood Dragon Art. 5 done 5 Bullet Technique. Mu done. Wood Dragon Art. 5 done 5 Bullet Technique. Just when Yoshin and Uchiha Sena, Susanoo fought against ninjutsu. The 5 heavenly wood dragons suddenly flew up from around him, and then directly wrapped around Susanoo in the night morning. The wooden dragon's mouth tightly bit Susanoo in the night morning, and constantly sucked the chakra on Susanoo. Meantime, 5 attribute ninjutsu blasted towards Susanoo in the night morning. And Yechen was entangled by 5 wooden dragons and disturbed chakra. Moment. The water he released was suppressed by the fire. A sea of fire pressed towards him. At this time, the situation of the night morning was that there was a sea of fire from Uchiha Sena in front, and a 5-shot slash by ape flying in the sun. And his body was entangled in a wooden dragon and could not move. Suddenly, the upper hand that Yechen had just gained took a sharp turn again. Backtracking. Seeing that the attacks before and after were about to fall on him, Yi Chen's left eye kaleidoscope rotated. Father. An invisible force spreads around. Suddenly, the range within 50 days of the night morning as the center seemed to have been pressed the pause button. The sea of fire stopped in the void, not advancing for half a minute. Wooden ninjutsu also stopped a few meters away from the night morning. Even the 5 wooden dragons on his body stopped twisting at this time. Between the 1,000-hand pillars, the ape flying sun, and the 3 of Uchiha Sena, were also fixed in the picture. Time. The scene was extremely eerie. However, this strange picture is only for a moment. In all objects, the moment it stops, all the objects moved again. But everything is like going backwards. The sea of fire retracted, and the wooden dragon fell from Yechen's body and returned to the earth, and the 5 ninjutsu kept getting smaller and smaller, retracting into the mouth of the 5 doppelgangers of the ape flying sun. Moment. Everything went back to when the ape demon had just been beaten back into the psychic world. Back at the point in time, Yechen turned around sharply, just in time to see Uchiha Sena manipulating Susanoo to make a seal. Yechen did not have the slightest hesitation, and raised his hand to stab over. A blue slash flew towards Uchiha Sena. Immediately afterwards, another jump came to the 1,000-hand pillar that was about to release the wooden dragon, and stepped on it. Rumble, slash, and Susanoo's raised foot reached the target at the same time. Uchiha Sena raised his hand and used the sword in his hand to resist Yorichin's slash. And the 1,000-hand pillar also dodged Yi Chen's kick very easily. In a flash, Yi Chen, who was originally caught between the 3 people, was instantly cracked, and now only the ape flying sun chop side remains. 5 done 5 bullet technique. At this time, the attack of the ape flying sun slash also flew towards Yechen. HMPH. Yechen controlled Susanoo to slowly turn around, and in the face of the 5 ninjutsu of the ape flying sun, he swung 2 swords. A cross-shaped slash met the 5 ninjutsu of the ape flying sun. Rumble. Yi Chen's slash collided with the 5 ninjutsu of ape flying sun. Suddenly, an earth-shattering explosion occurred. Is it the power of time again? And, this time it was scoped. Quote. Uchiha Sena manipulated Susanoo and came to the left not far from the left side of Yechen, his brows furrowed. It's obvious. The series of attacks just night morning, as if foreseeing the future, made him perceive something. What a terrifying ability. A wooden dragon was summoned between the 1,000-hand pillars, stood on the head of the wooden dragon, and exclaimed again. It's a pity, now this body, you can't use immortal arts, otherwise you can fight well. A pitying look appeared between the 1,000-hand pillars. His current body, although it can allow him to exert 70% of his original strength. However, he can't use immortal arts, many of his tricks need immortal chakra to urge, now he can't use immortal arts, and with such a powerful night and morning fight, he really feels a little humiliated. Phew. The blue Susanoo looked at the center of his eyebrows. Yechin wiped the blood and tears on his face, looked at the three people between the 1,000-hand pillars, and then glanced at the battlefield of Ju Shinai and Uchiha Fugaku. When he saw that Uchiha Fugaku was actually attacked by Danzo, Yi Chen's face was obviously stunned, and then blood and tears flowed again in his left eye. In the distance, the time around Uchiha Fugaku and Danzo began to be reversed. Instantly returned to the time when Danzo had just appeared behind Uchiha Fugaku. Seeing it, Uchiha Fugaku was stabbed in the heart again. Uchiha Fugaku slammed forward and dodged the blow. Uchiha Fugaku is also a strong man with kaleidoscopic chakra eyes. Just now the time was turned back, although he did not remember the words of being hidden by the group to take out a wave of hearts. However, he did not lower his guard because Tuan Zhang was killed. Therefore, when there was an abnormality behind his perception, he did not hesitate to lunge forward and dodge Tuan Zhang's blow. Immediately afterwards, Uchiha Fugaku passed by Amaterasu and directly shrouded Danzo. This time, Amaterasu broke the curse of burning the undead. Tuan Zhang didn't even have time to cast the Four Elephants seal again, and was directly burned to ashes. After seeing that Uchiha Fugaku's side was okay, the kaleidoscope of night-morning chakra eyes looked further away again. When they saw Nara Shikahisa, their battle was also over. His gaze once again looked at the Senju pillar, Uchiha Senna, and Ape Flying Sun/3. After staring at it for 3 seconds, Yechin suddenly smiled. It seems that I have the slowest battle here. Originally, I thought about leaving a whole card, but now that I think about it, I still use it. Anyway, after I take over Konoha, what I get will definitely not be worse than this whole card. Yechin said. Under the puzzled gaze of the three people between the 1,000-hand pillars, he closed his eyes and slammed his body together. And Susanoo of the night morning, who shared his heart with him, also made a gesture of clasping his hands together. Use the Immortal Experience card. Immortal Law. Mu done. True thousands of hands. This. B. Quote. The Senju pillar looked at Susanoo in the night morning, and Susanoo's posture at the center of his eyebrows, and his pupils shrank suddenly. Immediately afterwards, he sensed a wave of natural abilities, which quickly converged towards the night morning. Suddenly, he understood what Yechin was going to do. Not good, be careful, he's going to belch. Quote. Seeing this scene, Senjuju was about to remind Sarutobi Hinata and Uchiha Senna, but suddenly thought that he seemed to be from the night morning. In an instant, his words stuck in his throat. His body, though manipulated, fights with Yechin. But he really stood on the side of the night morning, definitely not undercover. Father. And at this moment, Yechin opened his eyes. Immediately afterwards, he saw a striped road appear on Yi Chen's face. This is the immortal face tree. It is exactly the same as the immortal face spectrum after entering the immortal mode between the 1,000-hand pillars. Immortals. Pattern. Quote. Ape Flying Sun Chopper also changed his face greatly, although he could not use immortal arts. But his disciple, Zi Lai, apprentice Sun Bo Feng Shui Gate will be awe. For fairy arts, he knows how powerful they are. Must run. Quote. Ape Fairy Chopper really didn't expect Yechin to be able to immortal magic, otherwise he wouldn't dare to be tough with him directly. Therefore, after entering the immortal mode that night, he had to run away without thinking. However, will night morning give him a chance? Obviously not. I saw that the night morning that entered the immortal mode made a seal, and then he shouted loudly. Immortal Law. Mu done. True thousands of hands. Boom, boom, boom. The whole Konoha began to shake. Immediately, under the shocked gazes of countless people, a 1,000-handed Buddha that was enough to cover the entire Konoha rose from the earth. Boom. Nara Shikaku and the others, who were originally going to go to support Yechin, stopped, swallowed their saliva one by one, looked up with dull eyes, and looked at the towering Buddha. On. Just kidding, right, quote. This, am I dreaming, quote. Oh my god, is this still a power that people can have, quote. Nara Shikaku and the others were all frightened and stupid. After all, they were the closest to the calculation, and in the face of such a big Buddha, they felt weaker than ants. It's really terrible, no wonder the original one ended the Warring States period with Mu Duan. Nara Shikaku looked back and exclaimed with a look on his face. Yes, such a technique is no longer in the realm of mortals, right? Hinata said with the same shock. This is the strength of Yechen Sr. Kakashi also glared at the one-eyed eye, full of shock. Haha, it seems that our worries are completely superfluous. After Akamichi Dingzo was shocked, he laughed. Nara Shikaku also smiled, and then, with a solemn expression, said, all disperse, open Konoha's defensive enchantment. This level of attack, even if it is just an aftermath, may destroy Konoha. Quote, Konoha Shinobi Village is aware and defensive of two kinds of enchantments. Moreover, not only Konoha has it, but the other 4 major ninja villages have such enchantments. Merely, these enchantments are hardly used, especially defensive enchantments. After all, since the first generation created the era of ninja villages, every time the Ninja World War, the war did not affect the 5 major ninja villages. And once something happens in the 5 major ninja villages, most of them start from the inside. Or it was sneaked in. For example, the rebellion of the 9 Tails, the Naka Ninja exam, even if Pain invades Konoha, it is first to sneak in, and then to raid. Therefore, this defensive enchantment has never come in handy. And now, it just comes in handy. Yes, with Nara Shikahisa's order given, all Konoha's ninjas scattered. Soon after, Konoha opened the defensive enchantment. In an instant, except for the area of the Uchiha clan, the entire Konoha was shrouded in a layer of translucency. In a light blue light mask. It's really a terrifying power. On the Hokage rock, Z-Lai, who had a blue nose and a swollen face, stood on the side, looking at the towering thousand-handed Buddha, grinning in shock. Well, it was because he was too shocked and pulled the wound, and he grinned in pain. Tsunade, you can't be lighthearted at this time, and you keep greeting me in the face, it's really too much. Jiraiya covered half of his swollen face, looked to the side full of resentment, and held his hands to his chest, setting off a pair of mountains and setting off a pair of mountains more upright. Boom. Looking at the 2 mountains, Z-Lai couldn't help but swallow his saliva. Look again, wait for the eyes. Tsunade looked at the big Buddha intently, his eyes a little moist, but he also warned Jiraiya, who was squinting at her. Ahem. When Z-Lai heard this, he quickly withdrew his gaze and looked deeply below the great Buddha. Tsunade, you really don't care about the old man. Quote. HMPH. When Tsunade heard this, he snorted coldly, and then, with some moist eyes, he said with a sense of hatred, leave him alone. I wish it was better if he died. Calculated my Thousand Hands clan, let my Thousand Hands clan die silently, I won't say this. As the controller of Konoha, he did not allow anyone else to have more prestige than him, so as not to shake his position. The skill of the Thousand Hands clan is inferior to people, and by his calculations, I have nothing to say. However, he calculated to kill my brother Rope Tree, and in the end he did not even let go of the corpse, and even my grandfather and Rope Tree became his experimental subjects. Now playing with my grandfather, the soul of my second grandfather, it's not a pity to die. Quote. Of course, Tsunade had one more thing he didn't say. Sarutobi actually dared to calculate her, and wanted to use some beautiful male trick to send a Kato to break close to her. If it hadn't been for the last night morning to reveal something to her, she would have almost been recruited. And because of her stupidity at the beginning, she trusted Ape Flying Sun Chopper too much, and when she heard Yi Chen's words, she was stupid and went directly to Ape Flying Sun Chopper to ask for an explanation. In the end, it directly led to Yechen almost being assassinated. After the assassination of the night morning, Tsunade completely saw that Sarutobi had beheaded this person. Perhaps feeling guilty about Yechen, or perhaps not wanting to see this filthy village again, she chose to run away from Konoha. However, although she left Konoha, she has been paying attention to everything in Konoha. Especially here at night. As the only male member of the Senju clan, Tsunade naturally had the means to protect him. However, she did not expect that this night morning, which had always been regarded as waste by others, would be able to awaken Mu Duan. Now it is even more awesome, even the kaleidoscope riding wheel eye, fairy art has been used. This gave her hope for the revival of the Senju clan. In fact, a few years ago, Night Morning sent someone out to look for her trace Li Zhao's, and she knew it. However, when that kind of thing happened, what face did she have to face the night morning? So, all these years, she has been hiding from the night. And now that she appeared in Konoha, she also learned that Konoha had changed greatly, so she rushed back. Jiraiya listened to Tsunade's words and fell silent. Immediately, with a long sigh, he waved his hand and sat directly on the edge of the cliff. How? You're not going to help? Tsunade glanced at Jiraiya, a little surprised. She also thought that she would come over to help when she saw that the ape flying sun was in danger. Forget it, forget it. Zilai also waved his hand, and then, lazily, said, some of the things that the old man has done over the years have indeed passed, and I am now dragging you down and preventing you from participating in the battlefield. Isn't it also helping? Quote. After Jiraiya finished speaking, a smile appeared on his face and he winked at Tsunade. Looking at Jiraiya, who was beaten into a pig's head and winked at her, Tsunade snorted and quickly turned his head, afraid that if he looked at it again, he would not be able to resist beating him to death. Is this the power of immortal arts? Standing on the big Buddha hundreds of meters high, Susanoo felt the increase brought to him by the fairy art in the night morning, and there was an inexplicable sense of fullness in his heart. Especially standing on top of the head of the Buddha hundreds of meters high. The feeling of looking down on the sky and the mountains is simply fascinating. I don't know, after I take over Konoha, can I directly obtain immortal arts? Feeling the power of immortal arts, Yi Chen clenched his fists and said firmly, even if I can't get immortal arts from the system, I have to learn it. Quote. Speaking of this, Yechen glanced in the direction of Hokage Rock. Tsunade returned to Konoha. With his current strength, how could he not perceive it? Even, he sensed that Uchiha stopped water and Uchiha brought soil, and was watching it not far away. Father. At this time, a blue light mask shrouded the entire Konoha village outside the Uchiha clan. It's worthy of Luju, the reaction is really fast. Seeing this scene, the corners of Yi Chen's mouth rose slightly, revealing an appreciative expression. He knew that there was such a big movement on his side, and Nara Shikaku, a smart man, would definitely make some preparations. Otherwise, he really didn't dare to directly manipulate the thousand-hand Buddha to launch an attack on the ape-flying sun slash. After all, although the Uchiha clan was relocated to the edge of Konoha was also very close to Konoha. With the size of his big Buddha, even if it was an aftermath, it could turn Konoha into ruins. So, let's clean you up now. Yechen retracted his mind and looked at the ape-flying sunchop below, the Senjukuma pillar, and Uchiha Senna. If there are no worries, then it's time to end. Avatar Buddha on top. Boom, boom, as the night morning begins to control the great Buddha of thousand hands. Immediately afterwards, hundreds of tall Buddhas moved. And this movement, as if the great Buddha was dying, suddenly the ground shook, and the wind and clouds changed color. Woohoo! Behind the thousand hands Buddha hundreds of meters high, there were thousands of hands. One hand after another, turned into a fist, slashed towards the ape-flying sun below, and between the thousand-hand pillars, the three of Uchiha Senna smashed. Quick, come and protect me. Seeing this scene, Sarutobi Hinata's face changed greatly, and he quickly manipulated the Senju pillar, and Uchiha Senna came to his side. Senjukuma and Uchiha Senna, one controlling the wooden man, and the other Kage controlling Susanoo, surrounded Sarutobi in the middle. I want to use this to resist the attack of the great Buddha in the night morning. But, facing Yi Chen's godlike power, ape-flying sun chopper was still not at ease, and looked at the thousand-hand pillar and said, First Lord, please add a little more defense. Quote. When ape-flying sun said this, his voice trembled. No way, he is not Uchiha, and his peak strength is at most the peak of the shadow level. And the night morning that turned on the immortal mode was like 1,000-hand pillars at its peak. The strength has directly entered the point of half-step 6 paths. Faced with the existence of this strength, he was really afraid. Cut. Back then, I should have stopped taking you as apprentices, Quote. Thousand-hand pillar looked at the frightened ape-flying sun, and then thought about these things he did, even a person with big nerves like him looked down on him a little. But, he said that the ape flew to the sun, but his hands began to be sealed. No way, he was summoned by the ape-flying sun to slash the soil rebirth, and his body was still controlled by him. Mudin Mujibi. Mu Dun, the art of ranking. Bang bang. with the wooden escape between the thousand-hand pillars. The ape flying sun slash was instantly shrouded in a semicircular shield. And that's not all. When the ape flying sun slash was all shrouded, a demon shield wrapped the semicircular shield in it. In this way, the ape flying sun chop has 3 layers of protection. The first floor is between the Senju pillars, the wooden Susa of Uchiha Senna. The second layer is the demon shield, which can resist the rancard of the tailed beast Jade. The third layer is a semicircular shield made of wood. However, even with these 3 layers of protection, Ape Flying Sunchopper is still not at ease. He was alone in the wooden boundary wall, and added another earth boundary wall. So, the Ape Flying Sun Slash is equivalent to having 4 layers of protection. I already knew that the second generation came over. The ape flying in the darkness still had palpitations when he thought of the thousand-handed Buddha like a god and demon. Involuntarily, he thought of the flying thunder god technique between the 1,000 hands. If he had known that Yechen had such a whole card, he would have asked Senjuma to come and take him away earlier. However, then again, if he had known earlier, he would have run away long ago. And just when the ape flying sun is cranky, the attack of the 1,000-hand Buddha also fell. Boom, boom, boom. One fist after another, like cannonballs, rained down. Suddenly, the earth emitted a mournful cry, and the earth shook, as if the end of the world had come. The entire Uchiha station turned into ruins in an instant, and layers of dust flew into the sky, shrouding this area in dust. Ahem. Ju Shinai coughed up a mouthful of dust, turned his head to look at the big Buddha not far away, which was constantly waving thousands of arms, and complained, "Is this guy in the night morning trying to murder his own wife, better than his little goblin flying together?" Quote. Haha, he believes in your ability. The 1,000 hands on the side heard Ju Shinai's complaints, and a smile appeared on his usually serious face. Ju Shinai turned his head to look at Shinshojiya, and said angrily, "Second generation master, you can obviously get rid of the manipulation of dirt rebirth, why do you have to fight me for so long?" A few times I almost got killed by you. Quote. When Chinsho heard this, the smile on his face froze, and then, he said with a bitter smile, "I really can't blame this one, that little monkey is fine, he knows me very well, he may not know that I have a way to lift the control of dirt rebirth, but he still defended me with a hand, and his control over me is very strong. If it weren't for the power Yechen displayed, which distracted him, plus you broke the prohibition in my body, I wouldn't be able to get out of control." Quote. Is that so? When Ju Shinai heard this, he smiled, "Haha, it seems that I am still very powerful." Ju Shinai was very happy to hear the praise between the 1,000 hands. After all, her men are so powerful, if she is too weak, how can she go down with him? It's terrible. Uchiha took the earth to look at the towering Buddha with thousands of arms, and then looked at the scene that seemed to be the end of the world. The kaleidoscope riding wheel eye under his mask glared wide, and he couldn't help but spit out these words in his mouth. Counting up, the current Uchiha belt soil has not reached the age of 20. And his insight is not as rich as in the later period. Therefore, now that he saw such a scene, he was a little strained. Didn't Master Ban fight with the first adult? This big Buddha is Mu Duan's immortal method, right? How do you feel? It seems that Master Ban is meeting for the first time. Quote. With a faint smile on his face, Uchiha turned his head to look at Uchiha Obito. For the true identity of Uchiha Obito, although Yechen did not tell him, he can be sure that he is definitely not Uchiha Ban. As for who is this guy, he doesn't know yet. However, the age is definitely not great. Faced with Uchiha's temptation to stop the water, Uchiha smiled and did not reply. He also knew that Uchiha had already suspected that he was not Uchiha. It has been affirmed. But, so what? The current Uchiha has already killed the Uchiha family. Although he was ordered by Sarutobi Hinata, he did these things, which was tantamount to betraying Konoha. Moreover, the current ape flying sun chop is completely finished. In the future, Konoha will definitely be the world of night and morning. So, in his opinion, Uchiha didn't have a choice. Konoha couldn't hold him anymore. Now in addition to joining Shao, he can only be a wandering ninja. But are wandering ninjas so good? Not to mention that he offended him for this, just Konoha's never-ending pursuit and killing, he has suffered. It's time to speed up. Can't let him develop any longer. Quote. Uchiha turned his head to look at the big Buddha in the distance, constantly thinking in his heart. The power that Yechin showed today was already somewhat beyond his expectations. He didn't dare to imagine what would happen when Konoha completely controlled Konoha. Therefore, the Moon Eye plan, which originally wanted to wait for some time, had to be advanced. All right, it's going to be over. It's time for us to go. Quote. Uchiha took a deep look at the big Buddha again, as if to remember this big Buddha. Immediately, he turned his head to look at Uchiha and said indifferently. When Uchiha heard this, he stared in the direction of Konoha for a few seconds, his eyes flashed with a bit of complicated emotions, and then, he turned his head to look at Uchiha with soil. Okay, let's go. Quote. Father. Uchiha Obito didn't say any more nonsense, his kaleidoscope chakra eyes began to spin, and immediately after, the space distorted, and a vortex sucked the two of them in. Boom, boom, boom. Hold on, you can't let the enchantment break. Quote. It's really terrifying, such an attack is like the end has come. Without further ado, the shockwave is here again. All go harder. Quote. Semi-transparent. In the blue enchantment, a ninja named Konoha scattered around Konoha village, and together entered chakra towards the blue enchantment cover. This transparent blue cover, because of the attack of the great Buddha, the shock wave generated, was blown like a bubble, constantly shaking, and there was a tendency to break at any time. And everyone knows that this is the reason why Yechin reduced the scope of the attack. Otherwise, with so many big Buddha and so many arms, why is there only such a little attack range? And it is precisely because of knowing that everyone has a new understanding of the power of the night and morning. It is no longer a force that people can control. It is the power of God. Really, the power of God. From this moment on, night morning, it will be the new god of the ninja world. And they, Konoha, under the leadership of Yechin, will also come to the ninja realm and go to new heights. So, although all the ninjas were silent and fearful of Yechin's strength, but behind the fear is endless fanaticism. This is a mania for the strong. And those ninja families who stand in line early in the morning. At this time, the smile has blossomed. They won the bet. Konoha is really going to change the sky. Even the ninja world is about to change. That's it. Time passed under the complicated expressions of countless people. I don't know how long it took. The shaking of the earth stopped. The explosion sound, which was like a meteorite hitting the earth, gradually subsided. Everyone's eyes looked in one direction in unison at this time. I saw that the original station of the Uchiha family was still covered in dust at this time. The big Buddha also stood there, like a god and demon standing above the heavens and the earth. It's just that at this time, the 1,000 hands behind this big Buddha have disappeared. Crash! Suddenly, a gust of wind blew through the entire village of Konoha. Suddenly, the dust was blown away, revealing the Uchiha station that was originally covered in dust. And when they saw the appearance of Uchiha's station at this time, everyone gasped. I saw that the original Uchiha station had become a canyon at this time. The surrounding earth is piled up in all directions, and in the middle is a bottomless ravine, and a large pit. I didn't know that this ravine just connected to the underground water vein, and under the ravine, the water level continued to rise. Coupled with the fact that the Nanhi River that originally ran through the Uchiha family, that is, the river where Uchiha stopped his suicide in the original work, flowed into the ravine, it actually formed a waterfall. Boom! Seeing the completely changed Uchiha station, everyone swallowed their saliva. His face was full of shock. Phew! Uchiha Fugaku, who had already entered the defensive enchantment, wiped his eyes and looked at the scene in front of him. It took a long time before he let out a breath and forcibly suppressed the blood pressure that rushed to the brain. It's okay, it's okay. Fortunately, the clansmen were transferred early, as well as important objects, and the station was gone, just. Exactly. Uchiha Fugaku wanted to comfort himself and said that he could just go back to his original station, which is now the station of the Sarutobi clan. But when he said this, he couldn't say anything. He looked at the station that had become a canyon, and wanted to cry without tears. Nima, didn't you say that you would pay attention to controlling the scope of the attack? Is that how it is controlled now? So much control that you don't even have a home. Uchiha Fugaku wanted to cry, but he couldn't cry. Nara Shikaku glanced at Uchiha Fugaku, who wanted to cry without tears, and then, looking at the top of the head of the big Buddha standing above the sky, the corners of his mouth raised, with a smile, "From today, a new ninja god has been born." Quote, "Let's go. It's over." Quote, "We have won." Nara Shikahisa patted the dust on his body, with a smile on his face, and shouted to everyone. Oh, everyone around Nara Shikaku heard this, and they all cheered. Immediately afterwards, the defensive light shield was dispersed, and one by one rushed to Yuzebo. Oh no, it's towards the end of that canyon. Is it over? Above the Hokage rock, Jiraiya's face was full of complexity, and after sighing, he stood up and walked in the opposite direction of Konoha village. Won't you go back to the village? Tsunade looked at Jiraiya's back, and his mood was a little complicated. Hearing this, he stopped, turned to look at Tsunade, and then, with a serious face, a lewd smile appeared. If you agree to date me, I will consider staying, well, or in one step, I will join the Senju clan. Quote, when Gang 563 heard this, his head was full of black lines, raised his fist, and said viciously, "Do you want me to give you a ride?" Quote, cut. Zilai also cut a snort, and then, turned around again, and waved his hand. Then there is nothing to say, I still have to save those girls who have lost their footing, alas, I am so kind. Quote, Jiraiya said, his pace quickened a little, and when he was quite a little away from Tsunade, the smile on his face disappeared. He stopped again and looked up at the firmament that was about to break dawn. Goodbye, Tsunade, goodbye, my youth, the next time we meet, maybe you are all ready. After Zilai also muttered a word, the whole person jumped and quickly disappeared in place. Tsunade kept seeing Jiraiya's figure, after disappearing completely. Only then did she turn and look in Konoha's direction. Perhaps, it's time to go back and see, and Big Grandpa, the second grandfather was actually summoned, so you can't waste this opportunity to meet. Quote, Tsunade thought so, and immediately jumped off the Hokage rock and headed towards the village of Konoha. However, she did not go to Yechen's side, but went directly to the clan land of the Thousand Hands clan. Hara Uchiha clan land, the one that stood up to the heavens and the earth, but the top of the great Buddha with 1,000 hands was missing. Left, Yechen raised his eyes and looked in the direction of the fire shadow rock. In his perception, the breath of Jiraiya is constantly moving away. It's okay to leave, the ninja world is your world. At this time, Konoha is still too small. Quote, Yechen shook his head and withdrew his gaze. Although he also wanted to include the high-level combat power of Zilai under his command. However, with Jiraiya's personality, I am afraid that he will not agree. It's good to leave now, there are still a lot of things in Konoha. Boom, isn't it even dead? Quote, Yechen looked down, and immediately sensed that the ape flying sun slash was still alive. It's just that even if he is still alive, he is dying at this time. Crash. The Buddha, who was hundreds of meters tall, turned into wood chips and dissipated between heaven and earth. And Yechen's figure also fell on the water. The reason why it fell on the surface of the water is because the place where the ape-flying sun chop is located has become a large lake at this time. Snap. Yechen stepped on the water and came to the ape, which was floating on the water and dying. You win. Quote, at this time, the ape-flying sun was very miserable, and it seemed that there were no wounds on the outside, but in fact, the bones on his whole body had been broken. When he said these words, he mouthed a mouthful of internal organ fragments, mixed with blood, and flowed out of his mouth, and he couldn't live until he saw it. Seeing this, Yi Chen stepped forward, a green light appeared on his hand, and put it on the ape-flying sunchop, treating his injuries. Unexpectedly, this old guy is not dead, so let's play the afterglow again. Yes. Saving this old guy in the morning was not out of kindness. Instead, it is necessary to use this old guy to make him stabilize people's hearts faster. He defeated the Sarutobi series and seemed to control Konoha. But after all, he succeeded in rebelling by force. And no matter how Sarutobi said, he also controlled Konoha for so many years, and he did a good job in brainwashing Kung Fu. In this way, he directly created the rebellion of the ape-flying sun. If he directly took the position, those stupid civilians would probably do something. Although he is not afraid of these fools, he does not want to cause more trouble. And now that the ape-flying sun chop is not dead, he has room to operate. Sarutobi Flying Sun Chopper felt the injury in his body and was recovering. He opened his eyes sharply, and looked at Yechin with a face full of disbelief. He didn't understand why Yechin had to save him. Yechin saw that Ape Fei reopened his eyes and looked at him, and suddenly revealed a mouthful of white teeth. Hee. 3 generations of adults have worked diligently for Konoha for so many years, there must be many merits that many people don't know, right? I plan to hold a meeting for 3 generations of adults to let everyone know the merits of the 3 generations of adults. 0. Well, for example, 3 generations of adults worked diligently for Konoha, cut the corpses of the first adults, studied Mudu, and wanted to reproduce the glory of Konoha. For example, Konoha White Fang, in order to save his companions, gave up the mission, causing Konoha to suffer huge losses, and the 3 generations of adults pushed out Konoha White Fang, a super strongman, in order to allow everyone to vent. Oops, there are so many merits of 3 generations that I can't remember exactly. Forget it, these merits will be made public anyway, and this will be discussed later. Oh yes, I'm going to put this meeting under the Hokage building. Well, the name of this meeting is the Public Trial Assembly, the kind that the whole village attends together. Quote. When Ape Flying Sun heard Yi Chen's words, his eyes suddenly widened, as if looking at the devil, looking at Yi Chen. Nima, this is to nail him to the pillar of shame and leave him behind for 10,000 years. However, what made him even more angry and vomit blood was still behind. I saw Yechin turn his head and look at the 1,000-hand pillars not far away. By the way, the first generation of adults also participate. When the time comes, put the first generation of adults as sliced corpses, and then let the first generation adults as witnesses. This meeting must be very exciting. Quote. The 1,000-hand pillar, who was beaten by the 1,000-hand Buddha and was recovering, heard this, and question marks appeared on his brain. Immediately after, a picture appeared in his mind. In front of the crowded Hokage building, he, the god of ninja, the first Hokage, pointed to a lump of minced meat and shouted, "Fellow villagers of Konoha, I am the first Hokage Senjukuma, look at what my corpse has been ruined into. These 3 generations of Hokage, even the dead are not spared. Is there still a royal law? Is there still a law?" When he thought of that picture, even if he was nervous, he also fought a cold war, lying in the groove, night morning, are you the devil? Haha. Fortunately, my body was long gone, and I died before Konoha could be established. Uchiha Senna also thought of that picture. He laughed out loud, and then gave Yechin an idea. Boy, I'm afraid that a 1,000-hand pillar alone is not enough. Just pull it up. Even a 1,000-hand pillar, what kind of 3 generations of Hokage is not his disciple? He has this obligation to dry the ass he left behind. Quote. Uchiha Senna, you are looking for death. As soon as Uchiha Senna finished speaking, there was a roar from 1,000 hands in the distance. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.